Teams. Session resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for an additional reference of business. Could the Secretary General be directed to read the title of bills and resolutions on first reading, as well as communications and committee reports? So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there an objection? I hear none. That the motion is approved. The Secretary General is directed to read the titles of bills and measures on first reading, as well as communications and committee reports for referral to appropriate committees.
Additional reference of business. Bills on first reading. House Bill Number 7348, institutionalizing the revitalized Barangay Police Program of the PNP. Representative Almario.
Committee on Local Government.
House Bill Number 7349, 7354, and 7437, establishing TESDA training, assessment, and accreditation centers in the provinces of Davao Oriental, Guimaras, and Albay. Representative Almario, Nava, and Cabredo.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill Number 7350, increasing the bed capacity of Davao Regional Medical Center from 600 to 1,000 beds, upgrading for the service facilities and professional health care therein. Representative Almario.
Committee on Health.
House Bill Number 7351, accepting from taxation for the taxable year 2020 all medical and non-medical frontliners who are directly serving, treating, caring, aiding, and assisting COVID-19 patients. Representative Quaresma.
Committee on Ways and Means.
House Bill Number 7352, converting the Ilocos Sur Polytechnic State College in Ilocos Sur into the Ilocos Sur Philippines Polytechnic University, integrating therein the North Luzon Philippine State College. Representative Singson Mihan.
Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill Number 7353, providing for 3 small farmers representatives in the NIA Board. Representative Kabatbat.
Committee on Housing and Urban Development.
House Bill Number 7356, prohibiting the improper disposal of used cooking oil and providing incentives and rewards to LGUs, private entities, and individuals who develop or undertake effective biodiesel production projects, technologies, or activities from used cooking oil. Representative Reyes.
Committee on Health.
House Bill Number 7357, requiring LGUs to provide fire volunteers with health insurance from reputable private HMOs. Representative Reyes. Local government boss.
Committee on Local Government.
House Bill Number 7360, creating the Boracay Island Development Authority. Representative Garcia Jose Enrique.
Committee on Local Government and the Committee on on Government Enterprises and Privatization.
House Bill Number 7361 and 7386, instituting the Medical Reserve Corps. Representative Yu and Chipeco.
Committee on Health.
House Bill Number 7362, converting the municipality of Baliwag into component city to be known as Baliwag City. Representative Yap Eric and Duterte.
Committee on Local Government.
House Bill Number 7363, creating 1 additional RTC branch in the 1st Judicial Region to be stationed in Agoo, La Union. Representative Ergel.
Committee on Justice.
House Bill Number 7364, establishing the Rental Housing Subsidy Program. Representative Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio.
Committee on Housing and Urban Development.
House Bill Number 7365, providing for the development, administration, organization, training, maintenance, and utilization of the Medical Reserve Corps. Representative Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio.
Committee on Health.
House Bill Number 7366, creating the Philippine Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Representative Swansing Estrelita and Swansing Horacio.
Committee on Health.
House Bill Number 7367, creating the Department of Economic Planning and Development. Representative Barba.
Committee on Government Reorganization and Committee on Economic Affairs.
House Bill Number 7372, establishing the multi-species marine hatchery in Basie, Samar. Representative Tan Sherny.
Committee on Aquaculture and Fisheries Resources.
House Bill Number 7373, amending the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees, providing for statements and disclosure. Representative Villa.
Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation.
House Bill number 7374, authorizing the DOH to carry out programs and grants regarding the prevention, management of asthma and related respiratory problems for low-income families and communities. Representative Villa.
Committee on Health,
House Bill number 7375, providing incentives to all barangay officials. Representative Villa.
Committee on Local Government,
House Bill number 7376, defining and penalizing the crime of criminal neglect of vulnerable elderly persons, or a PWD. Representative Villa.
Committee on Justice,
House Bill number 7377, providing for a coastal tourism planning development program. Representative Villa.
Committee on Tourism,
House Bill number 7376, regulating crematories. Representative Villa.
Committee on Social Services,
House Bill number 7379, establishing welfare homes for destitute persons. Representative Villa.
Committee on Housing and Urban Development,
House Bill number 7380, providing for digital education. Representative Villa.
Committee on Basic Education and Culture,
House Bill number 7381, prohibiting the importation of products made with dog or cat fur, including their sale, manufacture, offer for sale, transportation, and distribution in the Philippines. Representative Villa.
Committee on Trade and Industry,
House Bill number 7382, amending Section 463 of the Local Government Code of 1991. Representative Villa.
Committee on Local Government,
House Bill number 7387, converting the Salvacion Opus Iñiguez Memorial Provincial Hospital in the city of Maasin, Southern Leyte, into a tertiary Level 3 hospital to be known as Salvacion Opus Iñiguez Memorial Medical Center. Representative Mercado, Romualdez Sieda, Romualdez Ferdinand.
Committee on Health,
House Bill number 7388, identifying tourism development areas in the province of Isabela. Representative Tan Alisa and Go Ed.
Committee on Tourism,
House Bill number 7389, establishing agricultural scholarship and return service program for deserving students. Representative Kabatbat.
Committee on Higher and Technical Education,
House Bill number 7390, making the position of municipal agriculturist mandatory in municipalities. Representative Kabatbat.
Committee on Local Government,
House Bill number 7391 and 7392, establishing the Provincial Agricultural Training Institute and a Bureau of Soils and Water Management in Basilisa, Dinagat Islands. Representative Ecleo.
Committee on Agriculture and Food,
House Bill number 7393 and 7394, establishing provincial livestock and root crop centers in Loreto and Libho, Dinagat Islands. Representative Ecleo.
Committee on Agriculture and Food,
House Bill number 7395, establishing the Provincial Seedling Bank of Libho, Dinagat Islands. Representative Ecleo.
Committee on Agriculture and Food,
House Bill number 7396 and 7397, establishing a provincial office of the NFA and PCA in Basilisa, Dinagat Islands. Representative Ecleo.
Committee on Food,
House Bill number 7398, establishing the barangay internet hubs that will provide free internet for learners and professionals. Representative Lacson.
Committee on Information and Technology
House Bill number 7399, prohibiting persons claiming government benefits of another without cause and authority. Representative Lacson.
Committee on Justice,
House Bill number 7400, establishing the Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises Information System in all cities and municipalities. Representative Lacson.
Committee on Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprise Development,
House Bill number 7401, rationalizing and expanding the powers and duties of the Social Security Commission and the Social Security Systems. Representative Vargas.
Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization,
House Bill number 7402, penalizing the illicit enrichment of public officials and employees from the acquisition of properties through unlawful means. Representative Vargas.
Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation,
House Bill number 7403, establishing the ICT hub in every province of the Philippines. Representative Vargas.
Committee on Information and Communication Technology,
House Bill number 7404, broadening the opportunities of Filipino youth by allowing graduates of the K-12 enhanced education programs in the PNP. Representative Vargas.
Committee on Public Order and Safety,
House Bill number 7405, providing for a national housing development, production, and financing program. Representative Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio.
Committee on Housing and Urban Development,
House Bill number 7408, converting the Mabini Community Hospital in Mabini, Batangas into a Level 1 Tourism Specialty Hospital to be known as the Mabini Medical Tourism Hospital, increasing its bed capacity to 50 beds. Representative Abu.
Committee on Health.
House Bill number 7409, amending the establishment of congressional, city, and municipal libraries and barangay reading centers throughout the Philippines. Representative Villanueva, Brother Eddie, and Rivera.
Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill number 7410, enhancing the continuing professional development of Filipino workers and professionals. Representative Villanueva, Brother Eddie, and Rivera.
Committee on
Higher Education.
Higher Education.
House Bill number 7411, authorizing the COMELEC to use and implement an automated and online system for voter registration. Representatives Villanueva, Brother Eddie, and Rivera.
Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms.
House Bill number 7412, prohibiting the active use and display of commercial billboards during typhoons. Representative Villanueva, Brother Eddie, and Rivera.
Committee on Disaster Resilience.
House Bill number 7413, strengthening the Commission on Higher Education. Representative Villanueva, Brother Eddie, and Rivera.
Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill number 7414, renewing the franchise granted to the UP system under RA 8160. Representative Villanueva, Brother Eddie, and Rivera.
Committee on Legislative Franchises.
House Bill number 7415, providing for simplified registration, filing of returns, and payment of income and percentage taxes, and providing tax relief for micro enterprises. Representative Villanueva, Brother Eddie, and Rivera.
Committee on Ways and Means.
House Bill number 7416, providing for the Magna Carta of workers in informal economy. Representative Villanueva, Brother Eddie, and Rivera.
Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill number 7417, providing for a Magna Carta of commuters. Representative Villanueva, Brother Eddie, and Rivera.
Committee on Transportation.
House Bill number 7418, instituting the Magna Carta of Filipino seafarers. Representative Villanueva, Brother Eddie, and Rivera.
Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs.
House Bill number 7419, declaring the Banao protected landscape situated in barangays Balbaasang, Talalang, Pantikian, Balbalan, Kalinga as protected area under the category of protected landscape. Representative Mangawang.
Committee on Natural Resources.
House Bill number 7420, strengthening domestic healthcare manufacturing industries. Representative Tan.
Committee on Health.
House Bill number 7422, establishing Philippine electoral health systems. Representative Salceda.
Committee on Health.
House Bill number 7424, amending Section 10 of Universal Healthcare Act. Representative Defensor Michael.
Committee on Health.
House Bill number 7427, granting Filipino citizen to Benvenido Marañaon. Representative Lopez.
Committee on Justice.
House Bill number 7428, providing for a just and equitable transition to a modernized PUV sector. Representative Lopez.
Committee on Transportation.
House Bill number 7429, addressing the social health insurance crisis. Representative Kimbo.
Committee on Health.
House Bill number 7430, amending sections 284, 285, 287, and 290 of the Local Government Code of 1991. Representative Rodriguez.
Committee on Local Government.
House Bill number 7431, providing for a comprehensive nursing law towards a quality healthcare system. Representative Rodriguez.
Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation.
House Bill number 7436, exempting electronic gadgets to be used for online distance learning from taxes, duties, fees, and other charges. Representative Castelo.
Committee on Ways and Means.
House Bill number 7438, converting the road strengthening stretching from the municipality of Jovillanar, Barangay Pantao in Libon, Albay to a national road. Representative Cabredo.
Committee on Public Works and Highways.
House Bill number 7439, development the root crops industry of the Bicol region. Representative Cabredo.
Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill number 7411, expanding the application of the Special Education Fund. Representative Barba.
Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill number 7442, providing standards for the practice of rehabilitation medicine. Representative Barba.
Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation.
House Bill number 7433, promoting sustainable agricultural development. Representative Onabia.
Committee on Food and Security.
House Bill number 7444, providing for the establishment of a district hospital in Iriga City, Camarines Sur.
Committee on
Representative
Health.
Yap Eric. Resolutions. House Resolution 1119, calling a one-year extension of the validity of firearms registration, license to own and possess firearms, and permit to carry firearms outside residence due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Representative Pancho C. Alvarado, Silverio, Villarica, Robes Revilla, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Frasco, Sarmiento, and Bravo.
Committee on Public Order and Safety.
House Resolution 1120, calling for an investigation on the plan of the DNR regarding the segregation, collection, transport, and disposal of used PPEs from hospitals and households. Representative Suarez Aleta.
Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1121, enjoining the Philippine Coast Guard to initiate forthright response to the continuous encroachment on unauthorized foreign vessels exploiting resources within the West Philippine Sea. Representative Savellano.
Committee on National Defense and Security.
House Resolution 1122, bolstering the use of herbal medicine and acknowledging the same as an alternative source of medication for health concerns. Representative Savellano.
Committee on Health.
House Resolution 1123, urging the IATF to reconsider the required use of motorcycle barriers for backriding couples. Representative Crisologo.
Committee on Transportation.
House Resolution 1124, 1127, and 1129, expressing profound condolences of the House on the demise of Congressman Francisco June Gamboa Datol, Jr. of Senior Citizens Party List. Representative Lopez, Tambunting, and Robes.
Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1125, directing the appropriate House Committee for a social economic solution for the community unity and corporate camaraderie in response to the pandemic situations in business interruptions. Representative Almario.
Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1126, urging the Committee on Labor and Employment to inquire on the conditions of public and private employment services and the job market in light of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Committee
Representative
on
Nograles 1.
Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1128, calling for the investigation on the seeming irregularities in the conformity and compliance the agency arrangements small-time lottery authorized agent corporation of the PCSO with existing laws and jurisprudence. Representative Villafuerte.
Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1130 and 1138, expressing heartfelt sympathies and deepest condolences of the House to the family and supporters of the late former COMELEC head Sixto S. Brillantes Jr. Representative Robes and Tambunting.
Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1131, directing the Committee on Human Rights to inquire on the killing of peace consultant and peasant leader Randall Randy Echanis. Representative Colyamat, Zarate, Gaite, Brosas, Castro France, and Ilago.
Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1133, directing Metro Manila Development Committee to investigate the safety and security of ports of Metro Manila in the handling of highly explosive substance in the light of recent accident in Beirut, Lebanon. Representative Martinez.
Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1134, urging the appropriate House committees to conduct an inquiry in the institutionalized and nationwide mechanism that address pandemics and its effects to the general health and public as well as economic repercussions. Representative Villa.
Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1135, directing the Committee on Energy to conduct an inquiry to fill the gaps of the EPIRA law as well as the urge of the NEA to assist the province of Siquijor Electric Cooperative to improve its performance and address the demand of the power sector. Representative Villa.
Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1137, expressing the profound sympathies and sincerest condolences of the House to the bereaved family of former Senator and former Manila Mayor Alfredo Lim. Representative Tambunting.
Committee on Rules.
Communications, letters dated August 8 and 10, 2020 of Janice Aizonzales, Deputy Director, Office of the General Counsel, Legal Services, BSP, transmitting to the House duly certified electronic copies of certain BSP issuances.
Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries.
Committee report, report number 409 of the Committee on Public Works and Highways on House Bill number 7355.
Committee on Rules.
Reports number 410, 411, and 423, Committees of
Committee
Higher
on
and
Rules.
Technical Education. Report number 412 of Defeat COVID Ad Hoc Committee on House Resolution 1132.
Committee on Rules.
Report number 413 of Committee on National Defense and Security on House Bill number 6077.
Committee on Rules.
Reports number 414, 420, 425, 427, 430, Committees on Agriculture and Fisheries Resources Appropriation on House Bill number 7368.
Committee on Rules.
Report number 421, Committees on Public Order and Safety and Appropriations on House Bill number 7460.
Committee on Rules.
Report number 422 of the Committee on People's Participation on House Bill number 7407.
Committee on Rules.
Report number of 424 of the Committees on Agriculture and Food and Appropriations on House Bill number 4637.
Committee on Rules.
Report number 426 on the Committee on Ways and Means on House Bill number 7425.
Committee on Rules.
Report number 431 of the Committee on Justice on House Bill number 7440.
Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Robert Ace Barbers of the 2nd District of Surigao del Norte on the matter of collective and personal privilege.
The Honorable Ace Barbers of Surigao del Norte is recognized. But before we begin, may we ask the nature of the privilege?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on a question of personal and collective privilege.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Leader. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate first our colleagues for passing another landmark legislation, the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act Part 2. This historical and timely legislation is aimed at fortifying our government's response against the coronavirus and to provide aid and extend assistance to the different sectors critically impacted by this pandemic. It aims to help our distressed business sector, as MSMEs, labor sector, particularly the displaced workers, transport sector, the health sector, particularly our frontliners, and sectors that are equally important, such as education and agriculture. Of course, we cannot ignore the people in the tourism industry. That is why we got them covered in the programs we passed to assist those that were displaced and retrenched because of this pandemic. Even our MSMEs in the tourism sector will also be assisted and granted access to soft and long-term loans. Though a bit short of the funds needed to cover a larger number of beneficiaries, I am still proud, Mr. Speaker, to say that most of the provisions adopted in the bicameral committee report were proposals that came from this lower chamber. Mr. Speaker, I am not to pick a fight against the members of the upper chamber for allegedly scoffing at the final version of the bill and on the issue that apparently insinuations were made that the contingent from this House were only pushing for their own personal interest. Most of us here know that it's not the truth. Mr. Speaker, we probably differ in our opinions on national issues with our dear senators, but at the end of the day, we still remain friends who agree to disagree. Mr. Speaker, most of us are friends with our dear senators. In fact, I'm a very close friend to several of them. In fairness to my good friend, Senator Miguel Zubiri, he is not the type that will chalk up statements that would insult this House and its members where he once belonged. And being a former member, he knows exactly the dynamics and demands of having a direct constituency. Unfortunately, some of the members of the Senate never had a chance to experience this. Mr. Speaker, I also do not believe that our counterparts in the Senate meant to demean us, if indeed statements were made as alleged. I am sure that all the members in the BICAM are all well-meaning and pushed for this legislation devoid of all motives and personal interests. Mr. Speaker, let us not lose sight of the real issue here. It may already be water under the bridge, but on hindsight, this may be remembered if the pandemic drags on longer than we expect. I feel that it is a big opportunity loss not to provide for infrastructure in the tourism sector at this time. Global tourism is down and will remain that way while the virus is lurking around us and no vaccine or cure is in sight. It is all about the issue of confidence, Mr. Speaker. Nobody will dare take leisure trips, nor even take a train ride, a boat ride, or even a plane ride at this time. This is why I say the timing is perfect. While the industry sleeps, we prepare the groundwork for the much-needed infrastructure and improve on existing ones. When it wakes up, we get to savor the fruits of our labor in good preparation, and we get the lion's share in the tourism business. This sector will be the first to bounce back fast and will benefit most among other industries. Mr. Speaker, in a post-COVID era, when global economy improves, jobs are back, governments and people have a steady income stream, people like you and me, I am sure, will list travel or tour on top of our bucket list of things to do. But make sure we include domestic travel as well. I believe, Mr. Speaker, that just like the mining industry, the tourism industry can contribute a lot to our economic development. Both these industries have only modest contributions to our GDP with less than 2% and 13% contribution respectively. However, Mr. Speaker, the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel in these industries is not impossible to see. There's still a lot of room for improvement, so to speak. We should tap their full potential and rake in the benefits it will bring for our country and our people. We should prepare for the influx of tourists by providing access with ease to and from our tourist destinations in the country. We should showcase what is best in our heritage, our culture, food and festivities, and of course, the beauty of our nature and our people. But we must invest in infrastructure. We must improve our facilities, our roads, airports, seaports, and yes, Senators Drilon and Soto, our toilets too, in order for the private sector to be encouraged to invest. Mr. Speaker, not a few times have we been asked why our neighbors have more tourist arrivals compared to us. Not a few times also have we been answered that our top problems are infrastructure, telecoms, and transportation. While there is a respite in global tourism, I believe, Mr. Speaker, that this is our window of opportunity to prepare for the bouncing back of the industry by improving on our infrastructure and making them at par with our neighbors. We boast of better and breathtaking sites, natural wonders, unexplored havens. We better construct those roads now or they remain unexplored forever. Mr. Speaker, if indeed we want to provide an economic stimulus in this sector, funding the TIEZA is the way to do it. I could not but overstress the importance of funding tourism infrastructure. We all know its multiplier effect, and not doing it now, while there are no tourists, is really losing valuable time and opportunity. Doing it now is like hitting two birds with one stone. Infrastructure creates jobs, and with it, allied industries and businesses. It will create a cycle of life and economic activity on its own. Make it larger and you can just imagine the magnitude of activity it will create. Investing in it can only mean one sure thing, that we have everything to gain, a boon for this industry in the years to come. Foresight, as we know and call it. But letting a golden opportunity pass and missing the timing may give us the opposite result. It is the same principle in the build, build, build that our government applies. There is wisdom in infrastructure. It paves the way forward. There is only one direction with it, that is progress. It is always said, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. It is not tough. It is not a tough choice, Mr. Speaker, really between dole-outs and infrastructure. Improving, developing, capacitating, and providing the necessary amenities for tourists should be the end goal. We should think of the long term and think of the post-COVID era. Let us not be myopic in our strategies to help resuscitate this industry at this time. There is nothing we can do. No amount of advertisements or come-ons or special packages will encourage people to travel at this time. And so now is the perfect window of opportunity for us to improve our destination, our products, our services, our facilities, and our infrastructure. Be that as it may, Mr. Speaker, I hope that in the next stimulus package, this proposal emanating from this House will see the light of day, and everyone in both houses of Congress will see the wisdom behind it. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Congressman Ace Barbers. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize, to interpolate the Speaker, the Honorable Michael Defensor of Party List Anak Kalusugan.
The Honorable Michael Defensor is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. Kung papayag po sa ilang katanungan ng ating kagalang-galang na Congressman Ace Barbers, Mr. Speaker.
It is a privilege and honor to answer questions from a good friend and one of the esteemed members of this 18th Congress. Pwedeng-pwede po.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, Mr. Speaker, 25 years ago, Congressman Barbers and I, Mr. Speaker, were here together as part of the minority. I was a second-term congressman. Congressman Ace was a first-term congressman at that time. Pero sa edad po, mas matanda po sa akin si Congressman Ace Barbers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, gusto ko lang hong tanungin, alam niyo, Mr. Speaker, doon po sa thread natin ng mga congressmen, nakita ko po si Congressman El Rey Villafuerte sumasagot sa ilang katanungan ng mga kasamahan natin sa Kongreso. And I have kept quiet. Hindi po ako nakipagdebate doon. Binabasa ko po lahat ng pinopost nila. At ang tinanong ko po ay si Congressman Ace Barbers. So, bakit po si Congressman Ace Barbers? Kasi po nasa kanya ang isa sa malaking lugar ng tourism area sa ating bansa, ang Siargao. Mr. Speaker, nabasa ko rin po yung pinost ni Congressman Ted Haresco. Siya po yung isa sa mga unang sumagot. At bakit po si Congressman Ted Haresco ay mabigat ang aking pagtingin dun sa kanyang isinulat dahil po siya ay kinatawan. Probably considered one of the number one spot, tourism spot of our country, yung Boracay. So tanong ko, Mr. Speaker, para lang malinaw ulit, Congressman Barbers, yung version ba ng House na yung pondo sa infrastructure, yung po ba ang kailangan ng mga tourism area at particular po sa Siargao na inyong lugar?
That is correct. Tama po kayo dyan, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. Dahil ang Siargao ay nabibilang sa isang probinsya sa northeastern part of Mindanao na meron din pong natatagong likas yaman na kung saan ay nakakainganyo po ng mga turista. And you are correct, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, na ito pong pondo na supposed to be ay nasa TIESA for infrastructure, implementation of the infrastructure programs, ay nararapat lamang sa panahon ngayon na meron ho tayong window of opportunity to improve yung ating mga facilities. Alam nyo, matagal na ho, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, na lagi pong napupulaan ang ating mga tourist spots sa bansa. And more often than not, if a tourist come to the country, after that, marami pong sa kanila nagsasabi na, alam nyo, ang kulang sa inyo, kulang kayo sa mga facilities. Wala kayong, ang airport nyo mainit, yung CR nyo, medyo hindi kanais-nais yung masasalubong ng mga turista, and the likes, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor. So dapat lamang po, in fact, kung ako po ang masusunod, mas maaari po sana, lakihan pa natin sana yon.
Mr. Speaker, doon po sa inyo nabanggit, kailangan nyo ng airport, ayusin yung inyong toilets. Ano pa, Mr. Speaker?
Roads, seaports,
Para po yung daungan ng bangka mula po sa mainland papunta sa Siargao. Ngayon, ang tanong ko pangalawa, ano po ba yung TIESA, Mr. Speaker? Para lang mapaliwanag sa tao, baka akala nila kung ano yung TIESA na sinasabi.
Yun po, yung TIESA po ay isang ahensya ng gobyerno na kung saan ay napapailalim sa Department of Tourism at ito po ang infrastructure arm ng kagawaran ng turismo sa ating bansa. Ang lahat po ng mga infrastructure na dapat pong gawin sa ating mga tourist areas ay sila po, ang TIESA po ang nag-i-implement.
So ang ibig pong sabihin, akong taga Quezon City, si Stella Kimbo taga Marikina, si Onyx Crisologo taga Quezon City, hindi na ho kami kasama dyan at hindi sa distrito yan ilalagay. Maging po yung mga kasama natin dito na mga taga-ibang lugar, hindi po ibig sabihin na sa distrito nila ilalagay, kundi sa mga lugar na may turismo.
That is correct. Tama po kayo dyan, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. Ito po ay para po sa mga lugar na mayroon pong tourist spots or itinatawag po nating mga tourist destination na dapat naman po ay lagi po nating dinedevelop. Tandaan po natin na ang ating kalaban dito ay yung ating mga kapit bansa, no? Na kung saan ay meron din silang pinagmamalaki at pinagyayabang na mga tourist spots. And because of this, we compete directly with these neighboring countries, especially in our region, to get the biggest share of tourist arrivals in the whole of the region. Kaya nga po dapat, competitive po tayo. So, paano po tayo magiging competitive, Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleague, kung ang ating pong budget ay minuscule? Kung ating pong nilalaan na pondo para i-improve ang ating mga facilities ay napakaliit.
So ito pong pondong to ay para doon sa may turismo na at gustong mag-develop ng kani-kanilang lugar. Ngayon, ibig pong sabihin po ba si PD Barsaga, taga Cavite, pwede lang siya magsabi, lagyan niyo ako ng 50 million para sa kalye?
Hindi po pwede, Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleague, for the reason that ito po ay intended para po doon sa mga tourist spots na dapat po nating i-develop. No, I know na mapaganda ang probinsya sa distrito ni Congressman P.D. Barsaga, pero ito po ay develop na. Marami pa ho tayong mga hidden gems or hidden treasure, as they call it, na dapat po nating i-develop. At dito dapat inilalaan yung pondong yan, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
So, malinaw, Mr. Speaker, na hindi naman pala to pondo ng kahit sino man sa atin. Ito ay pondo kung anong mas makakabuti sa lugar ng turismo o yung magde-develop ng tourism areas, like in the case of Camarines Sur, when they develop Karamoan. So, hindi po ibig sabihin na pwedeng paghati-hatian to. Ano po yung sinasabi ng mga senador na parang paghati-hatian to ng pondo, Mr. Speaker?
Alam nyo, gaya po ng marami na ating kasamahan dito sa mababang kapulungan, tayo po ay nalilito, Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleague, dun sa kanilang mga paratang na ano itong sinasabing paghahati-hatian. Wala hong paghahati-hatian dito. In fact, itong pondo na ito, kahit po ito ay maliit, ay pagkakasyahin para po mapaayos, mapaganda, at ma-develop itong mga tourist spots. Hindi ho ito hatiin sa mga distrito natin. Ito ay nakalaan lamang doon sa mga areas na nangangailangan ng mga facilities nang sa ganun makaengganyo po tayo, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, ng mga turista, whether international tourists or domestic tourists.
Ngayon, Mr. Speaker, doon po sa mga binanggit din, and alam ko, kausap niyo po ni Congressman Ted Aresco, maraming stakeholders sa turismo, na talaga naman po hindi lang naman sila, kundi lahat ng negosyo na apektuhan. Paano naman po natin matutulungan yung sinasabi lang kailangan lang nila ng konting tulong para doon sa kanilang siguro pasweldo o kung meron mga investment, may mga utang na babayaran, ano pong mekanismo naman sa ilalim ng ating batas ng Bayanihan Tuhil as One at Tuhil Part 2 na para po matulungan ang ating mga establishmento?
Well, under sa ating Bayanihan Tuhil as One Act Part 2, meron pong nakalaan na pondo dyan para po sa ating mga MSMEs, no? Na kung saan ay pwede pong ma-access ng mga negosyante, lalo na po yung mga negosyante na ang negosyo ay nasa turismo, pwede po nilang i-access itong soft and long-term loans na pwede nilang gamitin. So, napakaganda nga ho ng ating intensyon at ng ating proposal dito, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, because much as we want to help everybody, dahil po sa kaliitan ng ating pondo, ilan lamang po yung ating matutulungan.
So ang ibig sabihin, Mr. Speaker, ang kasama po natin sa turismo, they can avail of that fund, 51 billion if I'm not mistaken, at maging pong lahat ng negosyante o kung anumang negosyo, pwede po nilang gawin yan at pwedeng matulungan sa ilalim ng batas na ating inaprubahan.
That is correct. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, tama po kayo, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, that meron ho tayong 51 billion pesos na inilaan para po sa pagtulong sa ating mga MSMEs, no? At our SB Corp and our banks have also made sure na available po yung loans and credit to all these businesses na gusto pong mag-avail nito. Kaya sa aking palagay, ito po ay napakaganda. Although, ang isa pong na-miss out natin dito, gaya po ng sinabi ko sa aking speech kanina, ay there is an opportunity loss. Dahil ito ho yung perfect timing at window of opportunity na dapat sana ay nakapag-invest tayo sa infrastruktura to improve and thinking way ahead, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, na hindi lang natin iisipin yung ngayon. Isipin natin yung pagbalik ng turismo sa ating bansa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, Mr. Speaker, di ba ang iyong ama ay naging senador din, ang kagalang-galang Senador Bobby Barbers. At isa po yan sa mga napakagaling na kongresista ng mga panahon natin. Nagpapasalamat din po ako kay Senator Pia Cayetano kasi siya po yung unang tumayo para tanggalin kaagad sa isipan ng mga tao na para bang may kalokohan dito na nangyayari sa pag-apruba ng batas. And siyempre, Mr. Speaker, nabanggit mo rin kanina si Senator Miguel Zubiri, Majority Floor Leader ng Senado, kaibigan po natin yan at nakasama natin. At ako naniniwala din naman na hindi ugali ni Miguel na magsalita ng ganon laban sa atin sa Kongreso at maging sa kanyang mga kasama at kaibigan. Kasama rin po natin ang kanyang kapatid, si Manuel Zubiri. And in fact, doon sa thread natin, kinaklaro din ni Manuel na walang ganitong salita at walang ganitong intensyon o pananaw si Senador Miguel Zubiri. At nabanggit mo yan sa iyong pananalita. Tama po ba, Mr. Speaker?
That is correct, Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleague. Binanggit ko po yan dahil po sa pagkakilala ko po kay Senator Zubiri, Miguel Zubiri, hindi ho ganyan klase ang kanyang karakter. Kagaya nga po ng nabanggit ko kanina, because alam po ni Senator Zubiri na iba ho ang merong direct constituency. May dynamics po dyan at meron pong demands ang direct constituency sa ating mga kasamahan dito. Unlike in the Senate, na marami sa kanila dyan ay hindi naman dumaan bilang congressman, no? So, maaaring hindi po nila naiintindihan po yon.
Ang tanong ko po, Mr. Speaker, bakit nung nag-text ka, hindi siya nag-reply sa'yo?
Kaibigan po natin, ang ating kaibigan. I'm sure, dahil po marami pong trabaho ang mga senador at gaya rin po ng iyong inireklamo sa akin, nung nag-text ka, ay hindi rin po siya sumagot. Kaya sa tingin ko, busy lang po, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, totoo po yun, Mr. Speaker. At any rate, Mr. Speaker, I hope that this can be settled, but let me congratulate the panel of the House, katulad po ng pagbati ni Congressman Barbers kay Congressman El Rey, who led the Bicameral Conference Committee team ng Kongreso. Congratulations. Ang aking chairman ng Good Government, Chairman Alvarado, Congresswoman Stella was also there. Sino pa ba? Si Congresswoman Sharon, I think, was also there. At sa lahat po ng bumubuo ng ating... Congressman Ted Haresco was part of that also. So congratulations po sa kanilang lahat. And sa ating po mga kasama sa Senado, siguro, ano na lang naman yung batas naman po, ginagawa natin ng talagang ninanais natin mapaganda. Tama po yung sinabi ni ni Congressman Ace Barbers, yung salita po na para bang walang kwenta yung ginawa natin, parang toilets lang at kalye, medyo hindi naman ho tama. May galangan po sana tayo, marami kayong kasama na kamag-anakan na nandito, marami kayong kaibigan na nandito, at sana po galangin din nila yung ginagawang trabaho ng Kongreso. At sa pagkakataong ito, I reiterate, Mr. Speaker, yung aking pong panawagan to release the minutes of the Bicameral Conference Committee and to show how the Congress counterpart worked hard, the House counterpart, yung kanila pong ginawang mga amendments to make the best of the Bayanihan Part 2 dahil po sa ilalim ng pandemya, nagtrabaho po ang mga kasama natin sa Kongreso para maibigay ang pinakamagandang batas para sa sambayan ng Pilipino. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Privileged Speaker.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. Bago po ako magtapos, ay gusto ko lamang pong i-emphasize na kung titingnan natin ang final version nitong ating Bicameral Conference Committee report, makikita po natin, at the minutes will bear me out, na karamihan po ng probisyon dito sa conference committee report na to ay galing po dito sa atin sa mababang kapulungan. At ito po ay tinayuan at pinaglaban ng ating mga kasamahan sa pangunguna ni D.S. El Rey Villafuerte. And with that, Mr. Speaker, again, I cannot overemphasize my congratulations to our colleagues, no? In spite of this slight bickering, so to speak, at the end of the day, we are friends with our senators, they are friends with us here, and we all agree to disagree. So that's all, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Ace Barbers. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer the speech of the Honorable Barbers and the corresponding interpellation to the Committee on Rules for appropriate action.
Is there an objection? The chair here is none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Luis Raymond Villafuerte Jr. of the 2nd District of Camarines Sur on a matter of personal and collective privilege.
The Honorable Deputy Speaker El Rey Villafuerte is recognized. May I know the nature of the Deputy Speaker, may I know the nature of the personal and collective privilege?
Mr. Speaker, this is with regard to the Bayanihan 2 that was
Please.
recently.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Honors, 5 buwan at kalahati. 5 buwan at kalahati nang simulan po natin ang ating lockdown sa bansa. Milyong-milyong kababayan natin ang nawalan ng trabaho, nagugutom, nagkakasakit, namamatay at dumadaing ng tulong mula sa gobyerno. Kasabay ng paglobo ng COVID-19 cases natin sa bansa, lumulobo din ang problema ng bawat mamamayang Pilipino at iba't ibang sektor ng ating lipunan. Kasama na dyan ang mga jeepney drivers na ilang buwan nang hindi pinapayagang pumasada, ang mga negosyong napilitang magsara dahil sa kakulangan ng kita at iba pa. Lahat ng sektor ay apektado ng pandemyang dulot ng virus na hindi natin nakikita. Mr. Speaker, sa 3 araw na tayo po ay nag-bicameral conference committee kasama ang ating Senate counterparts na pagkasunduan po natin ang mga importanteng bagay na dapat isama sa Bayanihan 2 o ang Bayanihan to Recover as One Act. Kung titignan po natin ang ating Bayanihan 1, ay sumentro sa milyong-milyong Pilipino na nawalan ng trabaho at walang makain, kasama na dyan ang pamamahagi ng Social Amelioration Program at cash aids. Ang ating Bayanihan 2 naman ay magbibigay ng pondo para asistahan ang mga industriya at sektor na talaga namang pinatay ng COVID-19. Kasama na rin dyan ang pondo para sa contact tracing, testing at pagbuo ng mga quarantine facilities at pati na rin ang standby na pondo sa posibleng bakuna sa hinaharap po natin. Hangad po natin na walang maiiwang Pilipino sa paglaban at pagbangon natin sa kontra COVID-19. Kaya sama-sama po tayong babangon sa pandemyang ito. Gusto ko lang pong pasalamatan po ang kasama kong 8 miyembro ng Bicameral Conference Committee po na kasama po namin na nakipag-diskusyon, nakipag-laban po, kasama po ang Senate counterparts natin para makapasa po tayo ng isang magandang batas. Pinaghirapan po yan ng Kongreso, kasama na rin po ang Senado. Kaya po ay palagay ko naman walang perpektong batas, pero palagay ko itong Bayanihan 2, sa hirap po ng ating mga colleagues, kasama po ang majority at minority, pinaghirapan po yan. Kaya nagpapasalamat po ako, especially to our Speaker, for pushing us to do better, especially in this time of pandemic. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, God bless. Mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker Elder President, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Bienvenido Abante of the 6th District of Manila for his interpellation. Our esteemed Minority Leader.
The Honorable Minority Leader, Bienvenido Abante, hereby recognized.
Mr. Speaker, pwede po ba na ako ay magtanong lamang sa ating kagalang-galang Deputy Speaker, ang pinaka-principal author po ng Bayanihan 2, along with my manifestations therein, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, it's an honor to answer questions from the Honorable and Distinguished Minority Leader. Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
May I start with this, Mr. Speaker? Yung pong inapprove natin na version of the Bicameral Conference Committee para po sa Bayanihan 2 is a total allocation of 165.5 billion pesos. Pero only 140 billion pesos will be readily available for use. The 25.5 billion pesos will serve as a standby fund and will be released once funds generated from savings and unused appropriations become available. I'd like to ask our Deputy Speaker kung ano po talaga ang nangyari tukol dito, although tayo po ay nagbigay ng mas mataas na alokasyon sa Bayanihan 2 na ito.
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, as just to recall, the Senate passed the amount of 140 billion. The Congress, this body passed 160 billion. Paglabas po ng Bicameral Conference Committee po, ay ang inaprubahan na po ay ang 165 billion. For the simple reason po, whether 140, 162, I think we realize in the BICAM conference, especially the members, na kulang talaga ang 140, 162. Kaya po nagdesisyon na po na 165. In fact, just to refresh, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, this body passed a 1.3 billion Arise Bill, 1.5 billion Cures Bill. So I think it's already the sentiment of this body that we need at least around 1.5 trillion to stimulate the economy. And what we're passing is barely a little over 10%. So we feel that the 165 is just right. And in fact, dapat nga, if ever, magkaroon po ng Bayanihan 3 to really address the issue on stimulating the economy. Because at this time, Your Honor, kailangan talaga ang government spending to spur demand and consumption. Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, mas honest at realistic tayo dito sa Kamara. You know, this measure that we say a stopgap in order for us to legislate an even greater economic stimulus. Ito po yung mga salient points na gusto kong banggitin para po malaman ng taong bayan kung ano po ang in-approve natin, kung ano ang sentimiento ng House. 15,000 cash aid to healthcare workers who contracted mild COVID-19. 100,000 pesos compensation for healthcare workers who are severely or critically ill from Bayanihan 1 was retained, including the 1 million peso cash assistance to the family of medical workers who died from COVID-19. Meron din pong special risk allowance of 10,000 pesos to medical frontliners who attended to patients with COVID-19. Meron 3 billion allocation for the procurement of medical supplies, PPEs, etc. And 4.5 billion peso for temporary medical isolation and quarantine facilities, field hospitals, dormitories for frontliners, as well as to expand hospital capacity. Meron din po tayong 9.5 billion peso aid for transportation sector while 13 billion will be used to help displaced workers. It also provides funding for COVID-19 testing and loan condonation for agrarian reform beneficiaries. 10 billion din po for workers and enterprises under tourism sectors as well as for tourism infrastructure. Na gusto ko lang pong itanong sa ating principal author na siyang head ng ating kakamara ng bicameral, ito po bang mga items na ito, for that matter, the reconciled provisions of the bicameral conference committee in any way, for the parochial benefit of any of the members of the House of Representatives?
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, I categorically state that all the salient features as provided in the House version, which was approved by the bicameral conference committee, are provisions that will really help our country recover. Wala pong personal interest dito as insinuated by our counterparts. Ang katotohanan, tayo po ang may malinaw na advokasya. Wag naman po sanang mag-insinuate ang ating mga kasama dahil kasama naman po sila sa BICAM eh. Kung meron silang sa tingin na may maling provision na hindi sang-ayon sa kanilang pananaw, sana sinabi po nila at pinagdebatihan po in a gentleman and more diplomatic statesman manner. As against po na pinagdebatihan na po yan ng 2.5 araw, tapos pagkatapos sasabihin, mag-i-insinuate po sa ating mga kasama dito sa Kongreso na binabanata na po ang institusyon na tayo raw ay for personal advocacy at tayo raw ay may personal interest lang at sila may advocacy. Mali po yan. Titingnan po natin, pinoint out po nyo, Your Honor, Minority Leader, na marami tayong provision na nakatulong sa iba't ibang sektor, lalong-lalo na po sa mga individual na mga apektadong sektor. So, yan po makikinabang ang buong bansa at lalong-lalo na po ang apektado. Wala po dyan na isang provision na sinasabi na makakatukoy na sinasabi na magkakaroon ng personal gain on each member of Congress. Ngayon, I categorically state, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, kahit natapos na po ang BICAM, sa bilang paglilinaw po, dapat state po nila yan. Anong provision po yan? Diba? Anong page? Para naman mabigyan po tayo ng pagkakataon na sagutin yan. But again, I categorically answer all these insinuations na wala po dyan na personal gain on each congressman or a district because this is for the benefit of the country. Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, ito po ang minority leader ng Kamara na nagsasalita. Ito po ang pagkakaiba ng minority leader po ng Kamara at minority leader po ng Senado. This representation was present all throughout the deliberation of House Bill 6953. And I can attest thereto sa nabanggit po ng Deputy Speaker that not a single member of this chamber have lobbied for parochial interests, nor have they inserted any provision that will benefit their constituency over and above other Filipinos. It is disheartening, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, in these extraordinary times, while this august chamber painstakingly set aside party lines, Mr. Speaker, parochial concerns, and differences to hammer out House Bill 6953 with due regard only for welfare of all Filipinos, we are now being accused of pushing provisions for personal gain. Even one of their member, Honorable Senator Pia Cayetano, and this representation hereby quote, she said, I would like to point out that the insinuation that no one in the Senate pushed for anything for personal gain makes it appear that our counterpart in the House did. I take offense na ang dami nating parinig na parang yung sa kanila may personal gain. Sabi po, August 20, 2020, Thursday, Senate plenary session. Mukhang yung mga senador natin, kulang sa pansin. Ano po? To insinuate that Representatives Villafuerte Jr., C., Alvarado, Yap, Abu, Cuwa, Haresco Jr., Palmatu, Garin, and Minority Member Kimbo have personal gains to push for is not only preposterous. Hindi ko na po i-spell pa yung salitang preposterous. Bahala na yung mga senador. Mag-spelling po niyan. But downright unparliamentary and not befitting of a member of a co-equal body to question the motive of the House of Representatives BICAM members is to question all of us who have set aside everything so that this bill will be passed. We are co-equal institution, and the Senate should be reminded of that. This representation cannot stand idly by while the reputation of this institution is besmirched, whether by insinuation or otherwise. So, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, the pending question is, what provision spurred this unwarranted insinuation?
Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, ako po naguguluhan. Wala naman talaga malinaw. Kaya nga, it's just right na ilabas na lang nila po yung transcript at video recording para mapanood ng taong bayan po kung ano po ang nabigay contribution ng Kongreso, ano nabigay contribution ng Senado, at yung sinasabing ini-insinuate na meron pong tinulak na personal gain. Lalabas naman po dyan sa video recording at transcript kung sino nagsasabi ng totoo. So yan lang po ang hamon ko para matapos na po to dahil alam nyo po, hindi po maganda na binabatikos ng isang institusyon. As you mentioned, Minority Leader, Mr. Speaker, we are a co-equal branch. Both branches of the legislative bodies have the desire to help our countrymen in this time of COVID, in this time of pandemic. So it's really not right na mag-i-insinuate ng mga ganyan. Again, anong provision yan? Para malinawan ng taong bayan, ilabas na lang po nila, unedited, uncut version, yung transcript, yung video recording, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
For example, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, sa House Bill 6953 on funding, 10 billion pesos to finance the programs of the Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority, or TIESA, assisting the recovery of the tourism industry that shall include the provision of tourism infrastructures. Doon naman sa Senate Bill 1564 on funding, 10 billion pesos to finance the program of a DOT to assist the critically impacted business in the tourism industry, including the provision of interest rate subsidies. So ito po bang provision na ito suggest or even inspire any insinuation of what they say personal gain for any member of the House of Representatives, Mr. Honor?
Salamat sa kalinawan, Mr. Speaker, Minority Leader. Ang katotohanan po, mas maganda yung version ng House. Dahil sa Senate version, nakalampo yung 10 billion for tourism. Tayo, dinitalya natin na naglagay po tayo ng 10 billion for infrastructure na napakahigpit po mag-access dyan ng pondo na yan sa TIEZA dahil dadaan yan sa board. Kailangan ng Regional Development Council. Isa yan sa mga ahensya na napakahirap mag-access. Hindi pwedeng sasabihin niya na tatawagan mo, himingi ka, bibigyan ka. Hindi po yan. Pangalawa, naglaan po tayo ng 51 billion sa House version para lahat ng apektadong sektor ay matulungan for working capital or loans, kasama po ang tourism. At naglaan rin po tayo ng 100 million for tourist guides, subsidies and training. At naglaan po tayo ng 20 billion, Your Honor, for TUPAD, tulong panghanap buhay sa disadvantaged at affected sectors. Ano big sabihin yan? Pwedeng mag-access po dyan ang mga tourism industry employees na naapektuhan. Hindi lang sila, transport. So in reality, mas malaki po ang version natin. Ang nangyari po sa BICAM version, 35 billion na lang po ang inappropriate na available funds for working capital, not only for tourism but other sectors. Tapos 13 billion na lang sa TUPAD at nagsabi sila ng 3 billion raw for the tourism sector. So the total 16 lang as against our 20. So in short, the House version has a more holistic approach in recovery, not only in the tourism sector but in all sectors. Malinaw po yan, that's on record. So ang lumabas, minasama po nila ang intention natin, at the end, nabawasan po ang tourism in the version of the BICAM as against the House version. Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, this representation ay hindi po nakipag-usap kay Deputy Speaker tungkol po dito. Pero dahil sa concern namin sa bayan, nag-uusap po yung aming puso, mga kaisipan. Nagkakasundo kami, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor. In one article by the Inquirer, the news agency reported this issue and how the tourism industry is looking at this provision. While the Tourism Congress of the Philippines objected to the provision as this should be best realigned for tourism enterprises, there was not even a hint of personal gain or insinuation that any member of the House or their constituency will benefit from this provision. It was merely a difference in advocacy and priority, but never personal gain. Tama ho ba ako, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor?
Tama po yan kasi sinabi ko, kung si Senator Drilon po, gusto niyang mapaganda ang Iloilo niya, na tinulak niya na magkaroon ng convention center na I think almost 800 million. Tinulak niya na magka-international airport na 8 billion. Sa dalawang project na lang yan, 8.8 billion na. Pag siya po ang nagtulak, advocacy. Pag congressman, personal gain. Yun po ang dapat sagutin ng ating counterparts. Huwag naman nilang maliitin at masamain ang mga congressman. Dalang katotohanan po, karamihan po ng mga senador, galing rin pong Congress yan. At least 9 of the members of the Senate now used to be former members of Congress. And when they say, itong Congress ay personal gain, kami advocacy, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, baka they are referring to the old Congress, the Congress that they used to occupy before. But now, the Congress is the House of the people and we truly represent their aspirations and their desires. Pinaglalaban po ng Kongreso ngayon. Iba po ang Kongreso ngayon. So yan lang ang comment ko po, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. I think we should stop the idea just because they are in the Senate that they are in a pedestal. We are a co-equal branch, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. And must direct tayo sa tao. Dahil tayo po, pag may session ng Lunes hanggang Miyerkules, pagdating ng Huwebes hanggang Linggo, babad po tayo sa distrito. Yan ang hindi ginagawa ng mga senador, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, Your Honor, gusto ko lang pong i-remind ang Senado na ang ating Speaker ngayon ay naging senador din, Mr. Speaker. At this representation must point out that this was not the only provision for tourism. As Representative Michael Defensor stated, we have more than 40 provisions which the Senate panel merely adopted. Ang tanong, is that personal gain This representation says otherwise. Sa akin po, Mr. Speaker, as I close my interpellation, ito pong ginawa ng Kamara is love for our country. It's concern for those who have been affected by this pandemic. History will judge that House Bill 6953 is a bill that was thoughtful, balanced, and was passed to advocate for all Filipinos in times of extraordinary needs. Need I say more, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor?
I agree with you, Your Honor,
very
Mr.
much.
Speaker, Minority Leader. Lahat naman po tayo ay may magpapamahal sa ating bayan. Siguro dapat lang talaga na tapos na po yung BICAM, na-ratify na po ng Senado, ira-ratify po natin ito ngayon. Let us move forward and work together for more stimulus package. Hopefully in Bayanihan 3 or the Arise or Cures. Pagtulungan po natin yan. Wag na lang magtrabaho na lang po, wag na po tayo mag-grandstand. Dahil at the end of the day, the people will appreciate and judge us based on what we have done, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minority Leader Benito Abante. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize our Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Dan Fernandez of the 1st District of Laguna, for his interpellation.
The Honorable Deputy Speaker Dan Fernandez is hereby recognized.
Mr. Speaker, will the good gentleman from Kamsur yield from some clarificatory questions?
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, it would be an honor to answer this question from the distinguished gentleman from Laguna.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Dito sa Bayanihan Act 2 natin ay meron lamang po kung mga ilang katanungan na nais maiklaro para na sa ganon ay maintindihan din ng ating mga kababayan. Kasi doon sa, I think, hindi ko alam kung Section 10 to yung pong tungkol sa 5 bilyon para po sa 50,000 na mga tao na kukunin natin para sa contact tracing. Sila po ba ay makakatanggap din ng tinatawag po natin na mga hazard pay o yung special risk allotment like this?
Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, ang proposal po ng DILG is to hire 50,000 contact tracers at 10,000 pesos each. So I think that's roughly the amount of 5 billion. Hiningi po nila yan, binigay po ng Kongreso at Senado dahil we feel that this is needed and at the same time, kailangan talaga para maka-generate rin ng trabaho for 50,000 people. At the same time, natatakel na rin ang problema sa COVID, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
At according sa Section 4, naglagay din tayo ng special risk allotment. Siguro makakakuha din itong ating mga contact tracer. Dahil siyempre para mga ano din to mga frontliners din And at the same time, hazardous yung kanilang ginagawa. So I believe that DILG will somehow put a risk allotment to those contact tracer, Mr. Speaker. Sa Section 4 din, binabanggit yung tinatawag nating adaptation of national online electronic application system. Paano to may adapt sa mga tao, Mr. Speaker?
Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, this was proposed, it's in the House version, na-aprobahan sa Senado. Maganda po itong idea na to, ginagawa po sa ibang bansa. Siguro ang detalye nito, the details really can be discussed upon implementation, but the idea and the funding was provided in Bayanihan 2, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, ikaw naging gobernador ka ng Camarines Sur. At ako, naging mayor ako ng siyudad ng Santa Rosa. Dito sa Section 4, letter Q, may binabanggit dito yung pagre-realign, Kasi parang hindi ko nakita na meron pang kailangan na SP resolution. Para sa kabatiran ng ating pong mga mga executive, mga LGUs. Ang tanong ko ay kailangan pa ba ng SB resolution?
Palagay ko, ano naman, let's follow the local government code. I think it's really needed. The power to realign, nilagay lang po natin dyan because may limitation po ang mga LGUs ngayon, pasado na yung budget nila. Pinasa po yan bago rin nagka-COVID. So this encourages LGUs and the board to give the power to realign sa ating ehekutibo. But of course, hindi naman tinatanggalan ng poder ang ating mga sangguniang panlalawigan, sangguniang bayan para sundin po kung ano po ang nasa local government code, Your Honor.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker, sa magandang kasagutan ng ating sponsor ng bill na ito. At doon sa Section 4, letter N, may mga estudyante na tatanggap ng ayuda. At meron ding mga nilalagay na kaukulang pondo na I think meron tayo ditong parang 600 million or 300 million para sa mga estudyante, para sa kanilang bill o kaya yung kanilang enrollment bill sa kanilang school. Ito ba po ay fixed amount o nakabase to dun sa kanilang ibabayad sa kanilang enrollment?
Ano po yan? We leave the discretion to the implementing agency. Dalang katotohanan po, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, kulang po ang 300 million dyan. So we leave it to the discretion. Sinama po natin ang public at private dahil kailangan rin for both sectors. But we leave it to the discretion of the implementing agency. Kasi kung tutuusin mo po, ay kulang talaga yung pondo na yan.
Okay, maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Sa issue po nung SB Corp, naglagay ba tayo ng pondo ng 10 billion doon? Meron tayong 10 billion, Mr. Speaker, correct?
Ang in-approve natin version sa House ay 1 billion lang at nung natapos po ang BICAM, naglagay po ang final version na aprobado ng both houses, naglagay po tayo ng 10 billion po.
Correct.
Para sa SB Corp under the CARES program, which will involve dagdag tulong po sa MSMEs, cooperatives, tourism, mga hospital po.
So yung mga tourism sites natin, yung mga negosyante natin, pwede silang mag-avail dito. As a matter of fact, Mr. Chairman, kanina tinatanong ko si Deputy Speaker El Rey kung naglagay din tayo sa Land Bank of the Philippines at naglagay din tayo ng 18.4 billion at sa Development Bank of the Philippines, naglagay din tayo ng 6 billion at according sa iyo kanina, meron pa tayong 20 billion para doon sa mga workers sa tourism industry. Ang tanong ko ay, Mr. Chairman, napaganda nga natin na ibalik natin ang negosyo doon sa mga tourism areas. So tinanggal nyo naman po yung infrastructure, yung mga roads leading to a tourism destination. Paano naman pupunta ang mga turista kung wala namang daan na magagamit o sira-sira na ang daan na ginagamit ng mga tourism sites? Kung yung 10 bilyon na maliit na pondo na nilagay natin ay tinanggal pa sa BICAM committee.
Hindi. Ang intention po ng House talaga ay infrastructure can lead to job generation. So, importante po yan. Kalungkot lang, ang mga ibang industry ng turismo, sinasabi nila hindi raw kailangan ng infrastructure ngayon. Anuhin raw nila, marami nagugutom. Mali ang pananaw nila dahil dun sa Department of Tourism Action Plan, nag-request po sila ng 15 billion infrastructure. Pangalawa, ang kailangan raw nila working capital. At pangatlo, tulungan raw yung empleyado. Ang sagot ko, kailangan ng tatlo. Kailangan ng infrastructure, kailangan ng working capital, kailangan ng tulong sa mga affected sector. Na yan ang nilagay natin sa House version. Nakakalungkot lang sasabihin na hindi kailangan sa infrastructure. Pagdating ng budget hearing, lahat ng hinaing, infrastructure. Sinayang yung oportunidad. Infrastructure talaga, ang plano ng Kongreso talaga ay pagandahin na po ang infrastructure ng iba't ibang lugar para pagbukas, talagang mabigla po ang ating mga kalaban, particularly Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and other countries, na myopic, sad to say, ang pananaw ng ibang industry stakeholders na sinasabi na wala namang hotel. Ang nagkokontra lang yung mga tour operator, yung may-ari ng travel agency isa sa pinakamalaking travel agency sa Pilipinas daw, siya ang representante ng Tourism Congress, hindi raw kailangan ng infra. Sabi ko, ano travel agency ka talagang hindi mo kailangan ng infra. Pero yung pinopromote mo, kailangan ng infra. So, alam mo, with all due respect, dapat holistic ang approach. May infra, tulungan in the form of loans, tulungan yung apektadong sektor through cash assistance o yung tinatawag na TUPAD or cash for work, Your Honor. So yan po ang pinasa natin sa Kongreso at nakapasok rin naman sa final version. Yun lang, nakakalungkot, nabawasan ng infrastructure na again, this is for the country, not for any personal gain, Your Honor.
Yung sa Tourism Congress, Mr. Speaker, parang hindi nila pinapahalagahan yung mga areas na wala pang mga roads na papunta doon sa isang tourism site. Baka itong mga members ng Tourism Congress, meron na silang mga existing na mga magagandang roads papunta sa kanilang mga tourism area. Kaya ganito na lang ang kanilang pananaw. Nakakaawa naman yung ating mga areas like, for example, kanina si Congressman Ace Barbers, nagsalita na sa Siargao, sa Boracay. It's a bit unfair, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, alam mo, hindi ako privy dun sa nangyari sa BICAM kasi hindi naman po ako miyembro. At sa matter of fact, ay yung aking pong basihan sa aking mga sinabi tungkol doon po sa sinasabi po nila na napanood ko po sa YouTube, yung binanggit ni Senador Mig Zubiri about doon sa pure advocacy na parang they fought so hard, no? And they never fought for a particular area or particular personal interest. So ang tanong ko sa iyo, Mr. Speaker, bilang wala ako sa lugar ng BICAM committee, baka naman meron na banggit ka na personal na interest tungkol doon sa 10 bilyon na inilatag doon sa usapan. Meron po ba, Mr. Speaker?
Sabi ko nga ilatag na lang natin po ang transcript at video recording. Malalaman talaga kung sino nagsasabing totoo. Never in the BICAM did the member of the House panel mention about specific interests. What we've worked there is for national interest. Kami ang nagtulak talaga ng advokasya, di lang sa turismo, sa transport. Kung titignan mo yung version ng House, the salient features ay galing sa House version. Yung risk allowance for health workers, napakaganda po niyan. Yung mamimigay po tayo ng mga mask and PPEs, House version yan. Construction of isolation, field hospital, quarantine facilities, House version yan. 60-day grace period, tinulak natin 365 days. Ang naging kalabasan, 60 days, House version yan. Napakarami po ng House version. Tulong sa LGUs, pag-lift ng salary personnel limitation dahil panahon ng COVID, House version yan. Napakarami po. It's on record. Kaya nga sabi ko, para matapos na po to, we can move forward. Dabi po to yung trabaho. Ilabas na lang po ang transcript at video recording, unedited, uncut. Ngayon, kung ayaw po nila, I think let's just work and stop accusing this body of mga baseless accusations dahil hindi po nakakatulong yan ng panahon ng COVID. Salamat po.
Mr. Speaker, kasi parang hindi ko alam kung ano ang pinaghuhugutan ng ating mga senador on saying those statements. Sa susunod na linggo, Berna, Mr. Speaker, at magsisimula na po yung malapit na po magpasko. At sa susunod na 20 buwan, Mr. Speaker, mag-e-eleksyon na ng presidential election. And I don't want to think that these senators are posturing for presidential election on 2020. Sana naman ay hindi dahil nga napakasama naman po ng timing kung gagawin po nila yan. At sana, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, kasi nung pinanood ko yung YouTube, aside sa sinasabi nila na selfless sila, pure advocacy, at wala silang pinipiling mga lugar o personal na interes, parang ang feeling natin, Mr. Chairman, sila lang yung magaling. Para namang atang unfair yun. And I think it's a indirect attack sa ating pong members ng ating pong Kongreso. At ang nakakalungkot, Mr. Chairman, pag oras ng eleksyon, lagi po natin silang nakakasama, humihingi sila ng tulong sa atin, at sinasabi nila yung kanilang mga advocacy, at sinasabi nila selfless sila. Pero after election, parang nagiging selfish sila. Na sinasabi po nila na may parang minomonopolize nila yung pure advocacy na sila lamang. Tayo sa Kongreso, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, may kanya-kanya tayong advokasya. At ang masasabi ko lang, Mr. Speaker, itong ang mga sinabmit natin sa Bayanihan 2, katulad ng sa kalusugan, naglagay tayo ng 13 billion. Sa jobs, 18 billion. Sa agri, meron tayong 24 billion. Sa education, may 7 billion. Are these not pure advocacies? Lahat ng advokasya ng bawat isa, ng membro ng mababang kapulungan. And I hope na sana po ay pakiusap sa ating mga kasamahan sa Senado to stop to inciting to a malicious interpretation. Kasi nagkakaroon ng masamang interpretasyon yung ginagawa nila. At ako ay nagpapasalamat kay Senador Pia Cayetano for standing on behalf of the lower house. At halinawa, Mr. Chairman, dahil ito na nga po, aprubahan na po natin itong Bayanihan 2, ay maiwasan yung mga ganitong klaseng sitwasyon. Yun lamang, Mr. Speaker, at maraming salamat sa iyong mga katugunan, D.S.L. Rey.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Speaker, records will show that this House has advocacies that we passed already pending in the Senate. Ano po yan? Stimulus package ng ARISE, Cures Act, yung new normal, yan ang mga advokasya ng House. Marami pa na pending in the Senate. So siguro may we request our counterparts na siguro move on na tayo at kung pwedeng ma-discuss na po yan mga pending sa kanila na makakatulong sa ating mga kababayan. Salamat po, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker Dan Fernandez. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Jonathan C. Alvarado of Bulacan for his interpellation.
The Honorable Jonathan C. Alvarado is recognized.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, maaari po ba ako magbigay ng ilang katanungan na tinatanggap po ba ito ng ating iniidolo na kapartner mula po sa Kamsur?
Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, it will be an honor to answer questions from the distinguished gentleman from Bulacan and the chairman of the Good Government Committee.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat, Deputy Speaker Villapuerte. Kanina pa po kami nakikinig dito at siguro 3 beses ko na narinig yung pinag-uusapang video. Ano po? Siguro po yung video na yan, Mr. Speaker, ay yung video po na nangyari noong August 20 sa session ng Senate Session number 3 na pwede pong mapanood ng taong bayan sa YouTube. Deputy Speaker El Rey, Mr. Speaker, napanood nyo na po ba yung video na ito?
Hindi ko po napanood. Nakita ko lang sa news, saka may nag-mention sa akin. Pero yung a part of that video, nakita ko po, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, kung po papahintulutan po ninyo at ng ating distinguished gentleman from Kamsur, ay kung maaari po maipalabas po natin yung video para maintindihan po ng ating mga kasama na hindi pa nakakapanood ng video, pati po ng ating mga kababayan kung ano po ba yung video na pinag-uusapan natin ngayong araw na ito. Roll BTR.
Sound.
Ito pong videong ito ay maaari ninyong makita at mapanood session number 3, August 20, 2020, sa internet po yan, sa YouTube. Mukhang walang sound yung video. Mr. Speaker, mukhang pipi yung video na download natin. Sa naturang video po, kung inyo pong mapapanood, pwede pa ba yung video o nagka-problema na? Okay po.
When the majority leader says the were selfless in their proposals and advocacies, no agenda whatsoever. You were merely talking about the Senate panel,
No comment, Mr. President. Basta kami sa Senado, Mr. President, it was pure advocacy and it will be shown in the records and we fought it out well. And I think, as I said, the Senate amendments prevailed here as well. And I think it's a balanced Bayanihan Act, Mr. President, both for the House and the Senate. We have to give them credit also, Mr. President, where credit is due.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Like all of you, I'd like to congratulate our chair and commend him for his hard work in shepherding the passage of this measure. Mr. Chair, I will not take this opportunity to mention the interventions I made because the chair has already detailed every single intervention. And we all know that we take care of the sectors that are close to their heart. And we all do our best to also support the sectors that are close to our other colleagues' heart. And it is for that reason that I would like to point out that the insinuation that no one in the Senate pushed for anything for personal gain makes it appear that our counterparts in the House did. And you all know that the Speaker is my brother. And so I want to put on record that I was a member of the House of Representatives. I have met very honorable people from the House of Representatives who also fight, just like you and me, for their constituents. So whether you want to take care of your constituents as I do because they're athletes, so sinuportahan ko, it was not my provision, but I supported the provision of the House on support for the athletes who are, as you all know, they are the very people who unite our country at times where we are so disunited because of politics, basically. Hindi ko intervention yun, but I supported it because it's a great intervention, and we all do that. So I'd like to, on behalf of my former colleagues in the House, put on record that I do take offense that ang dami natin parinig na parang yung sa kanila, may personal gain. I leave it up to you what your intention is, whoever makes those insinuations. Pero sa akin lang po, I've worked with them. And kung if you feel that there's one agency that is not competent to be large with big funds, that is our prerogative to fight for that in the same way na we had days of hearings on PhilHealth. That is our individual and collective prerogative. But I'd also like to put on record, because I said it in the BICAM, that I also support infrastructure for tourism. Infrastructure investments are known to be economic for growth. And all over the world, that is an acceptable vehicle. We don't like it, okay lang yun. Pero let's not naman insinuate na may masamang intention yung counterparts natin. And I even called the Senate President to say that as early as the time of Pinoy, some 10 years ago, I talked to the Secretary of Tourism, then Secretary Jimenez, and told him that where is our long-term plan for infrastructure on tourism? How come our beaches do not have public bathrooms that anyone can walk into? How come our public beaches do not have boardwalks that interconnect a big resort and a small-time resort? And I told Sunny, our chairperson, that like the investments that his late father made in Baler, hindi lang dapat nung kanilang resort ang nilagyan ng boardwalk. Hindi, tinuloy-tuloy yun, kaliwat kanan. In fact, bawal akong bumalik dun kung 10 kilometers long na yun. So that is all our collective dream. And I don't like the insinuation that there are other people, because I also was a member of that house that time. And I will stand up and speak for them because they cannot speak in this house. Yun lang naman, Mr. Chair. And I'm not pinpointing anyone because it becomes a joke. But I don't think it's a funny joke because these people mean well. They want to also take care of our constituents the way we also want. Yun lang po, Mr. Chair. And again, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much to our chairperson.
Kung inyo pong mapapansin, Mr. Speaker, yung unang parte ng video ay medyo parang comedy show. Kaya lang, dito po sa ating kapulungan ng House of the People, tila ba nung pinapanood natin kanina ay walang natawa. Ganun pa man, pagkatapos po o bago po magsalita si Senator Pia Cayetano sa kanyang pagtatanggol sa Kongreso ay nagpasalamat po si Senator Bongo sa mga counterparts sa House of the People at inisa-isa po niyang pinangalanan lahat ng members ng BICAM, ng Senate at ng House at isa-isang pinasalamatan. Kaya pinaparating rin po namin kay Senator Bongo ang aming pasasalamat sa kanyang napakagandang pagturing sa ating lahat. Gayon na rin po kay Senator Joel ay nagpasalamat rin sa atin. Senator Sani, Senator Migs ay narinig ko rin pong magpasalamat pagkatapos. Ganun pa man mga kasama, sana po ay hindi maapektuhan ng videong ito na kumakalat ngayon yung napakagandang samahan ng Senado at ng Kongreso. At Mr. Speaker, maitanong ko lamang po sa distinguished gentleman from Kamsur kung ano po ba ang atmosphere doon sa BICAM? Nag-aaway-away ba sa BICAM o magkakasundo naman at nagkakaroon ng meeting between the minds pagdating sa BICAM?
In general, maganda po, conducive for debate, maganda ang samahan. May mga times na rin na medyo hindi nirerespeto ang mga kasama natin sa Congress, but pinapabayaan po natin sila, but it doesn't mean that pinapabayaan that they can do it, di ba? We are statesmen, we should exercise diplomacy. We are a co-equal branch. Pag may provision po na gusto itulak ang Kongreso, the panel, we have to justify and reason out. Pag sa Senado, dapat ganun din. Pero dapat at the end of the day, magkakasama tayo. The overriding principle is we are co-equal branch, di ba? No one is in a higher pedestal, di ba? Co-equal. That's why nakakalungkot lang, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, na after na nagkaroon ng ganitong BICAM, okay na, nagkaroon pa ng mga insinuation at nakaka-insulto lang. But nevertheless, we're willing to move on. We're willing to work and partner with them in other legislation. Sana naman lang that moving forward, pag nag-agree na po, tapos na yan. Pwedeng pagdebatihan during, but pagkatapos na nagpirma na, dapat tapos na po yan. So, linawin ko lang yung mga insinuation on personal gain, mali talaga yan. Kasi ang tanong ng taong bayan, bakit ba nila tinutulak na magkaroon ng working capital na bilyon? Ang tanong, sino bang interes ang tumutulak dyan na gustong umutang? So yan, babantayan ng Kongreso yan. At lalabas yan kung sino ang gusto makinabang dyan. At sana, Your Honor, ang makinabang dyan, yung mga small, medium enterprises na nangangailangan. Hindi yung mga malalaki na hindi nangangailangan at may vested interest, Your Honor.
Mr. Speaker, meron po akong listahan dito ng mga naipasok sa final version ng Bayanihan We Recover as One na galing po sa House version o sa House of the People na wala po sa bersyon ng ating mga counterparts sa Senado. At maaari pong sagutin ng ating minamahal na kinatawan ng Kamsur kung ito po ba ay masasabing for personal gain o para po sa lahat ng mamamayang Pilipino. Ito po bang procurement of face mask saka mga PPEs na may 3 bilyon ay masasabing personal para sa ating mga kongresista?
Para sa taong bayan yan, ang request po yan ng IATF, ang plano po nila yan is to give to the poorest of the poor. Ni isang miyembro ng Kongreso, hindi makikinabang dyan. Hindi po yan for personal gain ng kahit na anong miyembro ng Congress. That is for the Filipino people.
Mr. Speaker, yung bang 4 na bilyon na dagdag para sa isolation ng medical quarantine facilities ay para sa mga kinatawan o kongresista, Mr. Speaker?
Unang-una, ni-request po yan ng IATF. Ginastify nila bakit kailangan yan. Kailangan yan dahil yung mga umuwing mga LSIs, OFWs sa probinsya, imbis na mag-home quarantine, i-quarantine na lang sa mga facilities na yan para maiwasan ang pagkalat ng COVID. Para yan sa kalusugan at safety ng ating kababayan, not for any personal gain, Your Honor.
Mr. Speaker, ang 10 bilyon ba na para sa DOH, para sila ay magkaroon ng karagdagang tao na pansugpo sa COVID, ay personal. Yung bang para sa mga OFW na 820 million, ay masasabi na pang distrito, pang personal ba yan? Para sa OFW. Yung bang allowances na 600 million para sa mga mag-aaral na Pilipino ay for personal gain, Mr. Speaker. Yung bang subsidiya para sa mga non-teaching personnels, mga part-time faculty sa state universities na 300 million ay masasabi bang for personal gain? Yung bang allowances para sa mga atleta at coaches na nagdala sa atin ng napakaraming karangalan noong nakaraang SEA Games na 180 million, Mr. Speaker, ay masasabi ba natin na personal gain na mga kinatawan? Yan bang 20 billion para sa agriculture, para sa mga magsasaka, ay para ba sa personal gain na mga kinatawan? Mr. Speaker, ayoko na pong basahin isa-isa lahat ng mga probisyon na ipinasok ng House Contingent sa Senado. Ngunit, Deputy Speaker Villapuerte, Mr. Speaker, meron po bang ni isang probisyon na for personal gain ang pinasok ng mga miyembro ng BICAM sa nangyaring bayanihan We Recover as One?
Wala po, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. And yan, yung sinabi niyo po lahat, yan ang tinatawag na pure advocacy. Malinaw ang Kongreso po ang tumulak ng mas maraming pure advocacy, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, kung po pure advocacy ang House of the People, ako rin po ay naniniwala na pure advocacy rin naman yung ating Senate counterparts. Ngunit ako po na ay nababahala, Mr. Speaker, sapagkat hindi po ako sigurado kung may mga naglalabasang fake news ngayong panahong ito. At malapit po sa puso ko yung tao po na tinatamaan ng mga news, hindi lang natin alam kung fake news po ito o tunay na news. Pero sana po, Mr. Speaker, ay mabigyan natin ng pagkakataon itong counterpart natin na magpaliwanag kung totoo nga ito. Mr. Speaker, makikita po natin sa screen na galing po sa GMA News Online, nakalagay po, Senate Black House bid to allot 10 billion for Cubeta Kalsada. Ayan po. Nakasulat po sa GMA News Online, hindi lang nga po natin alam kung ito'y mapapasinungalingan o mapapatotohanan, Mr. Speaker. At ang susunod pa po, isang news po na kumakalat mula sa Metro Manila Daily News. Nakalagay po dito, Mr. Speaker, Drilon, yes to 10 billion funding for Iloilo projects, but no to 10 billion funding for Philippine tourism. Nakalagay po dito, I'm strongly opposed to the House proposal to allocate 10 billion for tourism infrastructure, but nobody should question my 10 billion fund allocation for Iloilo to promote tourism for the following. 9 billion Iloilo International Airport, 900 million for the Iloilo Convention Center, and 100 million for Iloilo River Esplanade. Alam niyo po, Mr. Speaker, hindi ko po masyadong alam yung ibig sabihin ng Esplanade. Pero 100 million po ang halaga, siguro po ay napakaganda po ng Esplanade. At Deputy Speaker Villapuerte, the representative from Camsur, sa mga tourism site po ba na naunang isinulong ng House Contingent ay Meron po bang mga nakasamang mga kubeta dyan sa naunang isinulong ng Congress contingent? Mr. Speaker?
Linawin ko lang po kasi pag tinawag infrastructure po, hindi naman po ibig sabihin kalsada, kubeta. In fact, gusto ko lang i-correct, ang mga millennial ngo po ngayon tinanong sa akin, ano ba yung kubeta? Banyo na po ang tamang term. So, pag nagsabi ng infrastructure po, hindi ibig sabihin kalsada, banyo. Pwedeng airport, seaport, facilities. Ang definition ng infrastructure kasi, Your Honor, with all due respect, is the basic physical and organizational structure and facilities needed for the operation of an enterprise or society. Meaning, pagandahin mo isang pasilidad, infra yun, di ba? Hindi naman, saka gusto ko lang basahin kasi yung comment sa Facebook, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. Sabi niya, tama po ang Kongreso dahil hindi naman lahat ng turista naka-helicopter. Kailangan ng kalsada, turismo, malinis na banyo, facilities na pahingahan. Yan po ang objective ng Congress. Infrastructure, facilities na makakapaganda po ng ating bansa at tourist destination. So, yan po ang paglilinaw dyan. Nakakalungkot lang na, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, nilalagyan ng masamang intensyon ang ating advokasya, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, alam niyo po, napakarami na po naming ni-request sa national government. Ang katotohanan po ay sa amin pong distrito sa lalawigan ng Bulacan, matagal na kaming nangangarap na magkaroon kami ng agro-farming, tourism, tsaka ng river tourism. Ngunit sa kasamaan palad, wala pa po kaming sapat na infrastructure para dito, pero hindi pa rin po kami titigil. Gayunpaman po, kung may kubeta man po ay hindi ko po maalala yung proposal namin, pero sana may kubeta. Pero sana po kung magkakaroon ng kubeta ay hindi po katulad ng kubetang ipinakikita natin ngayon sa screen. Noong 2012 po kasi, Mr. Speaker, baka po nasanay ang ilan sa ating mga kasama, na ang isang kubeta ay nagkakahalaga pa ng 295 million, isang toilet o isang kubeta. Sana po sa panahong ito, dapat mga 500,000 na lang ang isang kubetang kagaya po niyan. At Mr. Speaker, kung pong inyong papansinin, yung 295 million po na toilet na yan, ay walang partisyon. Sa madaling salita, kung dudumi ka, kung nagdadrive ka, dumindumi ka na, at natapatan mo na napakaraming tao sa loob, magtatakip ka na lang ng mukha mo o kaya pipikit ka na lang para sa pakiramdam mo ay walang makakilala sa'yo. Pero Mr. Speaker, hindi naman lahat ay masama sapagkat kung constipated ka naman, kung hindi ka makapaglabas ng dumi, ay pwede ka magpahawak sa kamay at matutulungan ka ng mga kasama mo habang ikaw ay umiiri. Ngayon po, Mr. Speaker, alam niyo po dito sa House of the People, napakarami na nating binantayan na issue. Issue ng mataas na sigil ng kuryente, issue ng mataas na sigil ng tubig, korupsyon sa loob ng PhilHealth o aligasyon sa korupsyon sa loob ng PhilHealth, mabagal na distribution ng SAP, lahat po ay hindi pinalalampas ng House of the People, lahat po ay hindi nakakalusot sa bagong bahay ng mamayan na talaga naman tunay na binabantayan ni Speaker Alan Cayetano sa patnubay ng ating Pangulo, Mayor Rodrigo Roa Duterte. At Mr. Speaker, kung yung maliliit na bagay ay hindi natin mababantayan, siguro naman maipapangako natin o mababantayan na natin na ni isang kubeta sa panahon natin ay hindi tayo magpapagawa ng ganoong kaganda na 295 million ni walang partisyon na kubeta. At ako na po ang nagsasabi sa bawat isa, Mr. Speaker, bilang chairman po ng Blue Ribbon Committee, kasama rin po si Chairman Mike Defensor ng Public Accounts, yayayain po namin ang bawat isa na magbantay at magmanman, wala pong makakalusot na korupsyon, kagaya po ng mga nangyari nung unang panahon Sa panahon po ng pamumuno ni Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano, wala pong makakalusot sa pamumuno ng ating minamahal at iniidolo, Pangulong Mayor Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Mr. Speaker, ako po ay nagpapasalamat sa ating idolo mula po sa Kamsur. Maraming salamat po sa oras na ibinigay niyo sa amin, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for pointing that out. Just to put on record, hindi yan mangyayari sa panahon ni President Duterte, yung ganyang CR na yan. Hindi yan mangyayari during the incumbency natin dito sa Kongreso, the House of the People. Ang alam ko po, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, hindi pa po ako congressman yan, yung nangyari yan, sa kasi Congressman Alvarado. Dahil kung congressman na po tayo, sigurado, di natin pinalipas yan. Lalong-lalo na ikaw ang good government chairman ngayon. Ako naman ay isang miyembro ng Public Accounts Committee, hindi natin papalipasin yung mga ganyan. Hindi mangyayari yan during our term. So we'd like to assure the public na yung pinakita nyo, hindi nangyari yan during the term of President Duterte and during our incumbency representing the House of the People, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Jonathan C. Alvarado, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize the Honorable Deputy Speaker Reneo Abu of the 2nd District of Batangas for his interpellation.
The Honorable Deputy Speaker Reneo Abo is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield for some questions?
It would be an honor to answer questions from the distinguished gentleman from Batangas, Your Honor.
Thank
Mr.
you very much to the chairman of the BICAM conference, BICAM conference from the House of Representatives. I would like to make some questions to clear. There are figures that have been mentioned by Congressman Alvarado, and I would like to make it clear whose provision is that. The 3 billion pesos for procurement of face masks, personal protective equipment, shoe covers, face shields, so on and so forth. 3 billion pesos. Sa House po ba yan o sa Senate?
Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, wala po yan sa Senate version, and we're proud that we have passed that as part of the House version, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. So maliwanag po, wala sa Senate. This is just for the information of our people. To finance the construction of temporary medical isolation and quarantine facilities, field hospitals, dormitories for frontliners, and for the expansion of government hospital capacity in the amount of 4 billion pesos. Meron po, saang provision o meron na yan? Meron po ba sa House o meron sa Senate? Sino may provision na yan?
Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, wala po niyan sa Senate version that they passed. At yan po ay we're proud na nalagay po natin sa House version which was approved by this body, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, and which was adopted by the BICAM conference.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Additional funding for the COVID-19 assistance to restart enterprises. The House provided a 1 billion pesos for Small Business Corporation. Nothing from the Senate, but during BICAM, 10 billion pesos. Therefore, most of this coming from the House, isn't it?
Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, yes, sa Senate version, wala pong fund allocated for SB Corporation or the Small Business Corporation. In the House version po, we allocated 1 billion. You're correct, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Subsidies and allowances to qualified students of public and private elementary, secondary, and tertiary education institutions in the amount of 600 million pesos. Meron po ba ang Senate? Meron po ba ang House?
Sa House version lang po meron yan. 600 million for students, 300 million for, 600 million for students, 300 million for teachers. House version lang po meron yan. Sa Senate version po, na in-approve nila, wala po, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, maliwanag po, wala po ang Senate. Subsidies and allowances of affected teaching and non-teaching personnel, including part-time faculty in private and public elementary, secondary, and tertiary education institutions in the amount of 300 million pesos. House or Senate?
House version lang po, confirm. Wala po yan sa Senate version.
Maliwanag, wala ang Senate. To assist the DepEd in the implementation of digital education information technology and digital infrastructures and alternative learning modalities na kailangan natin ngayon. Ngayon pong pasukang ito, nagsimula na ngayong araw na ito, in the amount of 4 billion pesos. Senate or House version?
3 billion po ang pinasa natin sa...
No, 4 billion.
Yeah, 4 billion po yung sa BICAM, and I think 3 billion po yung pinasa natin sa House na wala po sa Senate, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
I'm holding here the matrix from the matrix of our BICAM proceedings from the Senate, from the House, and from the BICAM. 4 billion din po sa atin.
Tama po kayo, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Assistance to local government units na talagang kawawa ng mga local government units. Daing na yung mga mayors. Lahat na isa kanila nakatuon ng pangangalaga dito sa mga tao, lalo na sa mga LSIs. Naglagay po ng 1,500,000,000. Senate po ba yan o House version?
1.5 billion assistance to local government units, nasa House version yan, wala sa Senate. At marami pa po tayong provision na nakatulong sa local government na wala po sa Senate version, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Tama po yan. Ang isa na po, yung non-monetary provision natin na meron po tayong tinatawag na 45-55% limitation sa personal services. Meron po tayong, nag-advocate po tayo na ito'y taasan para lamang po mabigyan ng karampatang pang-aalaga yung mga may pasyente natin na COVID mula sa local government units na hindi makapag-hire ng mga health workers dahil ng limitation. Tama po yon.
Tama po yan dahil naalala ko po in the crafting of the bill, isa kayo sa nagtulak po niyan, Your Honor. Deputy Speaker Rani po, isa sa nagtulong dyan para ma-lift po yung personal salary cap ng LGUs, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Salamat po, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. So, 180 million for the coaches and athletes. Senate or House version. House version lang po yan, meron po na yan. Including 820 million para po sa mga atin nung mga OFWs, assistance to Nationals Fund, para dun sa repatriation-related expenses, shipment of remains and cremains of overseas Filipinos who pass away due to COVID-19, medical assistance of overseas Filipinos, and other assistance that may be provided for overseas Filipinos. Meron po tayong ilagay na 820 million. Senate version po ba yan o House version?
Napakaganda po ng pagtukoy nyo dyan, Deputy Speaker Rani, dahil sa House version lang talaga na lagay po yung 820 million for the repatriation ng ating mga kabayan na OFW na wala po sa Senate version po yan.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. Makikita po natin, House version talaga tumingin doon sa mga bayani natin na siya talaga nagtatrabaho sa ibang bansa pero lagong naroon ang kanilang critical na kalagayan. At tayo lang din na nakakita na nangangailangan yon. Ang House of Representatives lamang din po. Meron po, nagkakagulo po tayo. Nagkakagulo po yan tungkol sa DOT, infrastructure, para bagawang wala tayong hindi natin nakikita kung ano talaga yung ginagawa ng industriya ng turismo dito sa atin. Pero, meron po ditong isang napakahalaga na non-monetary provision na napakahalaga ho dito sa Department of Tourism na nakita ko dito. Meron nakalagay dito doon sa subsection G. I think this is section 3 G. Number 1, provide loan interest rate subsidy. Nakita ko dito sa matrix natin, House lamang naglagay na yan. Nakalagay dito, G. Direct the Department of Tourism to assist critically impacted businesses that are tourism enterprises, including tourism-oriented micro-business enterprises or other members of the informal sector in the tourism economy in any of the following programs. Number 1, provide loan interest rate subsidy. Nothing from the Senate version, only the House has it. Isn't it?
Tama po yan. Mas marami po tayong provision na makakatulong sa tourism sector sa House version than the Senate. Tama po kayo, Deputy Speaker.
Therefore, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, the Deputy Speaker from Camarines Sur, I think we are really the representative of the people. Dahil tayo may direct constituents tayo, meron tayong taong mga tinitingnan dito, nakikita natin yung nasa baba. Micro tingin natin sa lahat ng dapat mangyari sa ating bansa. Hindi sa other house na macro ang tingin nila. Hindi na nila nasisilip, hindi na nila nakikita kung ano nararamdaman sa baba. Lastly, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, is interparliamentary courtesy being practiced today?
Dapat there should be interparliamentary courtesy. We are a co-equal branch, whether in the plenary, whether in BICAM, whether in public, especially in private. The courtesy that is due to each member of Congress and our Senate counterparts should be accorded, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. As part of, as member of the bicameral conference, Mr. Speaker, nais kong i-commend ang atin nung chairman, Deputy Speaker El Rey Villaferte, pati yung mga kasama ko. Si Congressman Ted Haresco, Congressman Jonathan Alvarado, Congressman Eric Yap, Congresswoman Estela Kimbo, Congresswoman Sharon Garin, Congressman Wilter Palma, Congressman Juni Kua, dahil nakita ko, naroon ako doon mismo. Present to lagi ako. At masasabi kong kami ho talaga yata nung panahon at nung oras na yon ang tumayo bilang tunay na statesman. Kung makikita lang ho natin ang mga video, kung makikita lang natin ang minutes. At masasabi ko, mas matured pa yata ho kami sa ibang senador na present noon sa BICAM. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Your Honor. Deputy Speaker El Rey Villaferte.
Thank you, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. Gusto ko lang i-point out na mas malaki po ang pondo na inalat natin for agricultures. Ang Senate, 17. Tayo, ginawa natin 20 sa House version. Sa BICAM, tinulak natin 24 billion. Yung risk allowance sa health workers, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, nasa House version yan, wala sa Senate version yan. Bilang pagpatunay, the House of the People, the 18th Congress, talagang lahat ng critically impacted sector binigyan ng pansin, pondo at prioridad. Your Honor, Mr. Speaker. Salamat po.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker Rani Abu. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Villaferte and its corresponding interpellations to the Committee on Rules for appropriate action.
Is there an objection? I hear none, that the motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Ted Haresco of Aklan for a matter of personal and collective privilege.
Honorable Ted Haresco, what's the nature of the personal privilege?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I speak in behalf of Aklan, West Aklan, in behalf of tourism, Mr. Speaker.
You're given 10 minutes. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. My experience in the bicameral, I was there the whole time, Mr. Speaker, and it was an amiable discussion. It was a good, positive give and take on the provisions of Bayanihan 2. I never heard anything about Calzada and Cubeta during the discussions, Mr. Speaker. It is a sad day, Mr. Speaker, that there have been, afterwards, there have been some repugnant and repulsive remarks from the other chamber. And I think that's the first time in the history of our republic that several senators are sneering and snickering in their laughter and alluding that we were after pork. Mr. Speaker, the whole Bayanihan 2 was made by the House, and for the people. And for the past several months, Mr. Speaker, the House has risen in terms of the people's perspective, in terms of survey, under the leadership of Speaker Alan Cayetano. I question why suddenly, after a very amiable give and take on the bicameral committee with the Senate, suddenly we were literally stabbed in the back, and alluding that we were after parochial or personal interest. There was nothing of that effect, Mr. Speaker. I speak of Boracay. Globally, it will take us 10 years for global tourists to go back to normal 2019. And with that, we have 42,000 displaced workers, 15,000 of which have returned to their provinces. They are displaced, Mr. Speaker. They are unemployed. And 30 minutes away from Boracay, Mr. Speaker, we have 7 undeveloped and pristine areas, one of which is what we call Hinugtan, a little Boracay that's almost as white and pristine as Boracay. We have a rapids that's bigger and more rapids than Pagsanghan. It's a roaring river from the town of Madalag. And we have another 7 waterfalls area that's pristine and undeveloped. And it's really beautiful, Mr. Speaker. We have mountains that were planted with pine trees by the Americans during the Commonwealth times, which we call our Little Baguio. Can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, if some 2.3 million tourists who annually went to Boracay on the average spend another 1 day in that area or 1 day in Aklan? That would give us another 10 billion contribution to GDP. If they stayed 2 more days, that would give us 1/3 of the 60 billion that we annually contribute to gross domestic product. So I do not understand, Mr. Speaker, why tourism should be exclusive. For instance, in Boracay, Mr. Speaker, I talked to the hotel owners, I talked to the hoteliers. They do not need any assistance. According to them, just open Boracay for tourism. But they are worried about their own workers, Mr. Speaker, because they have now displaced their workers. They have no jobs at all. That's about 25,000 out of 42,000, Mr. Speaker. Right now, these people have no jobs. And the House panel on the first option said, pwede ba local infrastructure? That would have a multiplier effect of some 4 to 6 times, Mr. Speaker. At least these workers would have some temporary jobs that would create some churn in our local economy. The traders would have places to sell their cement, their steel, the sand and gravel. People will be able to have some business. At least, Mr. Speaker, there would be consumption in our local economy. There would be some money going around the local economy. But then, Mr. Speaker, the Senate said this 10 billion should go to tourism. To whom, Mr. Speaker? To what? To where? To why? For example, there are 482 hotels, but none of the hotels in Boracay need some loans or need cash assistance. As we saw, Mr. Speaker, in the U.S., the fiscal stimulus or the monetary stimulus that they give big business just went to the pockets of big business, Mr. Speaker. They just declared cash dividends or they just bought back their shares. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't know what part of tourism that this 10 billion will really go to. Will it go to travel? Will it go to the hotels? Will it go to the restaurants and other service sector? That's so little, Mr. Speaker, because in Boracay alone, there are hundreds of billions of pesos of investments. So, Mr. Speaker, I manifest, Mr. Speaker, that the Bayanihan 2 there was no request for any pork barrel. There was never any request for any kubeta, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Ted Daresco, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Haresco to the Committee on Rules. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? I hear none, then the motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we are in receipt of the Bicameral Conference Committee report on the differing provisions of House Bill 6953 and Senate Bill 1564, our Bayanihan to Recover as One Act. As copies of the Bicameral Conference Committee report have been distributed, I move that we approve the Bicameral Conference Committee report on the disagreeing provisions on House Bill 6953 and Senate Bill 1564. I move for the ratification of this Bicameral Conference Committee report. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? I hear none, then the motion is approved. For those who are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
For those who are in favor, say nay.
Nay.
So the ayes have it. The Bicameral Conference Committee is hereby ratified.
Mr. Speaker, I would just like to manifest at the request of the Honorable Edsel Lagman that his vote for the ratification of the Bicameral Conference Committee report is that he votes yes to this ratification with grave reservations.
Noted.
Mr. Speaker, we have been informed by the Committee on Rules that our members who are not present today on the floor but are present through electronic means may submit their manifestations regarding their votes on the ratification of the Bicameral Conference Committee report on the Bayanihan to Recover as One Act to the Committee on Rules so that they may be entered into the records.
Noted. The manifestation of the Majority Leader is hereby noted.
Mr. Speaker, I move for a few minutes suspension. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Session is suspended.
Padala ko sa inyo, sir. Ito. Marmoy. Ikaw third video. Tapos ako pinost ko nung
Pakibadal lang ako rin sa bago.
Pabigay ko yung tatlo. Diretso ko na sa inyo, boss. Pati yung matrix na gano'n.
Oo.
Wala namang controversial dito sa mga third party. Mga colonialism, national organic kulto, garden. Ano rin kasi yung pang nahanap ko na nahanap ko na layo haba na ng old member baka ma-old member
Bago. Sir Bago. Bagong alaga. Ano ba tayo nag-iisip? Ako muna, boss. Yes, boss.
Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, with leave of the House, I move to begin consideration the business for the day.
Is there an objection? I hear none, then the motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on third reading of House Bill 6555. And for this purpose, may I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter to call the roll for nominal vote.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the bill and call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill 6555, an act institutionalizing volunteerism as a strategy for national development and declaring December as National Volunteer Month, amending for the purpose Sections 12 and 13 of Republic Act 9418, otherwise known as Volunteer Act of 2007. Roll call of members. In consideration of House Bill 6555, Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Zaldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Jong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Banyas, Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Berzaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondok, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabutchan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Kawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredinil, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero, Cayetano Mariela Arni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalaw, Co Angelica, Co Elizaldi, Coanco, Collantes, Crisologo, Cua, Cuaresma, Cueva, Culyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar, De Los Santos, Del Oso Montalya, Demaporo Abdullah, Demaporo Muhammad Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino Ino, Di Faustino Michael, Di Faustino Ian, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Ergel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas, Rudy Caesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Fer Juliet, Fer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia, Jose Enrique, Garcia, Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Go Ed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio Dong, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goroseta, Gico, Gullas, Guya, Jaresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Halusos, Javier, Jimenez, Ko Elisa, Ko Wilton, Kong Hun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lazatin, Liachon, Legarda, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Losotan, Makapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangundadato, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Naganyo, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Núñez Malanyaon, Waminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Uwano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padjernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Ramos, Rimulya, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yeda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sancopan, Santos Recto, Sarmento, Saulug, Sabeliano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, Si Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Shamir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherni, Tejada, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Chutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Brother Eddie, Villanueva Jose, Noel, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikorat, Zarate Zubiri. Second call for consideration of House Bill 6555. Abante, Acosta Alba, Agrao, Alvarez Senaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Chienza, Bagat Singh, Berzaga, Billones, Biron, Brosas, Bulot, Kanama, Castro Fredinil, Coanco, Kua, Daza, Defensor Michael Duavit, D. Faustino, Fariñas Ria, Fernando Fortun, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gatchalian, Gonzaga, Guya, Hataman, Ko Wilton, Kong Hun, Lagman, Liachon, Lopez Magundadato, Mariano Hernandez, Mendoza, Mercado, Nava, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Panotes, Pichay, Remulla, Romero, Sarmiento, Saulug, Silverio, Singson, Suarez Aleta, Taduran, Talyado, Tan Alisa, Tan Shamir, Tan Sherny, Teves Arnulfo, Tulfo, T. Alan, U. Juliet, U. Zamora Y. Corat.
The result of the nominal voting, number 655, affirmative 243, negative 0, abstention 0. House Bill 6555 is approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on third reading of House Bill 6878. For this purpose, may I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter to call the roll for nominal voting.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the bill and call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill number 6878, an act strengthening the implementation of the National Organic Agriculture Program, amending for the purpose Republic Act 10068 or the Organic Agriculture Act of 2010. Roll call of members in consideration of House Bill 6878. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abeg, Saldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adyong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbizon, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Baskug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Piazon, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondok, Bordado, Bravo, Rosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabotchan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Kawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredenil, Cayetano Alan Peter, Cayetano Maria Laarni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalaw, Co Angelica, Co Elizaldi, Coanco, Collantes, Crisologo, Cua, Quaresma, Cueva, Culyamat, Dagoc, Dalipe, Dalog, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar, De Los Santos, Del Yoso Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael, D. Ian, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermite Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Pariñas Ria, Pariñas Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Go Ed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goriseta, Guico, Gulyas, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Halosos, Javier, Jimenez, Co Elisa, Co Wilton, Kongun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lazatin, Leachon, Legarda, Lim, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadatu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Naganyo, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles, Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Nunez, Malañaon, Uaminal, Olivares, Ong, Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Oano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Ramos, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yeda, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangan, Salo, Sanchez, Sangkopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulog, Savellano, Siao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Suansing Estrellita, Suansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Samir, Tan Sherry, Tan Sherny, Tejada, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Tutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Balmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villaferte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap, Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikurat, Zarate Zubiri. Second call, Acosta Alba, Agaraw, Alvarez G, Alvarez P, Amatong, Bagatsing, Billones, Giron, Bravo, Bulut, Rosas, Kanama, Castro, FH, Coanco, Cua, Daza, Defensor M, Duavit, D, DF, D, FMC, D, D, Ian. Fariñas, Fernando, Fortun, Garin, Janet, Garin, Sharon, Gonzaga, Guya, Hataman, Ko, Kongun, Lagman, Leachon, Lopez, Taduran, Tan Alisa, Tan Samir, Tan Sherni, Teves A, Tulfo T.A., Uy J. U.
The result of the nominal voting on House Bill number 6878, affirmative 247, negative 0, abstention 0. House Bill 6878 is approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on third reading of House Bill 7332, and for this purpose, may I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter to call the roll of nominal voting.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the measure and call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill 332, an act renewing for another 25 years the franchise granted to Mindanao Islamic Telephone Company, Incorporated, presently known as Dito Telecommunity Corporation, under Republic Act Number 8627, entitled An Act Granting to Mindanao Islamic Telephone Company, Incorporated, a franchise to construct, establish, install, maintain, and operate wired and wireless telecommunication system in the Philippines. Roll call of members in consideration of House Bill 7332. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Zaldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez, Franz Alvarez Sinaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Baños Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Bersaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Bendigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondoc, Bravo, Brosas, Bulat, Bustos, Kabatbat, Cabochan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Cawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro, Franz, Castro, Fredinil, Cayetana Alan Peter Compañero, Cayetana Maria Laarni, Celeste Chato, Chipeco, Chungalauco, Angelica Colezaldi, Cuanco Collantes, Crisologo, Cua, Cuaresma, Cueva, Cuyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar de los Santos, De Loso Montalya, De Maporo Abdullah, De Maporo, Muhammad Khalid, Duavit Duhali Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael, D. Ian Paul, Ebcas Ecleo, Elago, Edverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas, Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Fer Luis, Flores, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia, Jose Enrique, Garcia, Pablo Jan, Garcia, Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Herongo, Edgo, Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales, Aurelio Don, Gonzales, Neptali, Gonzales, Sandro, Goroseta, Gico, Gulyas, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Haluso, Xavier, Jimenez, Ko Elisa, Ko Wilton, Konghun, Labad, Lacson Noel, Dagman, Lagon, Lara, Lasatin, Liachon, Legarda, Lim, Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Losotan, Macapagal, Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Magunda Dato, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad, Nagaño, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles, Jericho, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Nunez Malañao, Waminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Juana Disa, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Ramos, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yeda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sancopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulug, Sabellano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mian, Sensuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntaisi Alvarado, Taduran Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Shamir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherny, Teada, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas Tutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villara Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waycorat, Zarate, Zubiri. Second call for House Bill 7332. Agaraw, Alvarez Senaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Bagat Singh, Biron, Rosas, Bulot, Kanama, Castro Fredinil, Coanco, Cua, Daza, Duavit, D. Faustino Ino, Fariñas, Rudy Cesar, Fernando, Fortun, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gonzaga, Guya, Hataman, Co Wilton, Konghun, Lagman, Liachon, Mendoza, Mercado, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Pichay, Rimulya, Romero, Sarmiento, Saulug, Savellano, Singson, Suarez Aleta, Tan Shamir, Tan Sherny, Teves Arnulfo, Tulfo, T. Alan, Uy Juliet, Yu.
The result of the of the nominal voting on House Bill number 732, affirmative 240, negative 7, abstention 0. House Bill number 7332 is approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on third reading of House Bills 6928 and 6929. For this purpose, may I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bills and thereafter to call the roll for nominal voting.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the bill and call for nominal voting.
House Bill number 6928, an act establishing an arboretum in the premises of the Community, Environment and Natural Resources Office in the municipality of Colambugan, Lanao del Norte, to be known as the Colambugan Arboretum, and appropriating funds therefore. House Bill number 6929, an act establishing an arboretum in the municipality of Tagoloan, Lanao del Norte, to be known as the Mighty Cave Park Arboretum, and appropriating funds therefore. Roll call of members. In consideration of the two House Bills 6928 and 6929, Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Saldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adyong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Senaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biazon, Billones, Biron, Bolilia, Bondok, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabotyan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Kawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredenil, Cayetano Alan Peter, Cayetano Maria Larni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalaw, Co, Angelica, Co Elizaldi, Cojuanco, Colliantes, Crisologo, Cua, Quaresma, Cueva, Culyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Daza de Jesus de Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar de los Santos, Deloso Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duavit, Duhali Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael, D. Ian, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Go Ed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goriseta, Guico, Gulias, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hoffer, Halosos, Javier, Jimenez, Co Elisa, Co Wilton, Kongun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lazatin, Leachon, Legarda Lim, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadatu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Nagaño, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Nunez Malañaon, Uaminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Uano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Ramos, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yeda, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sangcopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulog, Saveriano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing, Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Samir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherny, Tejada, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Tianco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Tutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy, Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Biolago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikurat, Zarate Zubiri. Second call. Agaraw, Alvarez G, Alvarez P, Amatong, Bagat Singh, Rosas, Bulut, Kanama, Castro, Fredenil, Coanco, Cua, Daza, Duavit, D, Faustino, Ino, Fariñas, Rudy Cesar, Fernando, Fortun, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gonzaga, Guya, Hataman, Ko W. Konghun, Lagman, Leachon, Mangudadatu, Mendoza Mercado, Nograles, JFF, Nolasco, Peña, Remulla, Romero, Sarmiento, Saulog, Silverio, Singson, Suarez A, Tan Samir, Tan Sherny, Teves A, Tulfo, T A, Uy J, U,
result of the nominal voting on House Bill numbers 6928 and 6929 is as follows. Affirmative 247, negative 0, abstention 0. House Bill 6928 and 6929 is approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on third reading of House Bill 6961. And for this purpose, may I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter to call the roll for nominal voting.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill 6961, Act creating a high school for sports in the municipality of Bagac, province of Bataan, to be known as the Bataan High School for Sports and appropriating funds therefore. Roll call of members. In consideration of House Bill 6961, Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abig Zaldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agabasa, Garao, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez France, Alvarez Sinaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Muntado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Baños Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Bersaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista, Bendigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernas, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondok, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Cabochan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Cawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro, Franz, Castro, Fredinil, Cayetano, Alan Peter, Compañero, Cayetano, Maria Laagin, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalaw, Angelica, Coelizaldi, Cuanco, Collantes, Crisologo, Cuba, Cuaresma, Cueva, Cuyamat, Dago, Dalipe, Dalog, Daza de Jesus, de Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar de los Santos, de los Montalia, de Vapor Abdullah, de Vapor, Mohamed Khalid, Duavit, Duali, Duterte, Di Faustino Ino, Di Faustino Michael, Di Ian Paul, Ebgas, Ecleo, Lago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudera, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Parillas Ria, Farinas, Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia, Jose Enrique, Garcia, Pablo Jan, Garcia, Vincent, Garin Jared, Garin Sharon, Gastay, Gatchalian, Gato, Herongo, Edgo, Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales, Aurelio Don, Gonzales, Neptali, Gonzales, Sandro, Groseta, Gico, Gullas, Guya, Jerezco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Alisson, Xavier Jimenez, Co, Elisa, Co, Wilton, Conghun, Labad, Labad, Lacson, Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lastin, Liachon, Legarda, Limlem, Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Losota, Macapagal-Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Magundadato, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad, Nagaño, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles, Jericho, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Nunez, Malañao, Rominal, Olivares, Jose, Ongroni, Ortega, Juano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radasa, Ramirez Sato, Ramos, Rimulya, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Eda Marie, Romualdo Romero, Roques, Hagdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangan, Salo, Sanchez, Angcopan, Santos, Recto, Sarmiento, Saulug, Salvellano, Xiao, Silvero, Singson, Singson Mia, Sensuat, Sensing, Estrella, Sensing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Sentay, Si Alvarado, Taduran Talyada, Tambunting, Tanalisa, Tangelina, Tanshamir, Tanshari, Tansherni, Tiada, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Suset, Yanko, Talentia, Torres Gomez, Tulpo, Tupas, Chitor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Mali, Alfonso, Umali, Maria Victoria, Nadia Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmero, Vargas, Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva, Brother Eddie, Villanueva, Manuel, Villar, Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikorat, Zarate, Zubiri. Second call on House Bill 6961, Agaraw, Alvarez Sinaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Bagatsing, Bulot, Canama, Castro Ferdinil, Huangco, Cua, Daza, Duavit, Di Faustino Ino, Farinas, Rudy Cesar, Fernando, Fortun, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gonzaga, Guya, Hataman, Co Wilton, Conghun, Liachon, Magundadato, Mendoza, Mercado, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Pichay, Rimulya, Romero, Sarmiento, Saulug, Silverio, Singson, Suarez, Aleta, Teves, Arnulfo, Tulfo, T. Alan, Uy Juliet, Yu.
The result of the voting on House Bill number 6961, affirmative 247, negative 0, abstention 0. House Bill 6961 is approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend session until tomorrow, August 25 at 3 p.m.
Session suspended.
Ito, DB, selfie naman dyan.
Until tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Okay po. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.